Helen, you said that Commissioner Torres is going to be arriving late to the meeting. Can't hear you. Helen, you're mute.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, she is going to be arriving late to the meeting. She said 15 to 20 minutes late. So.
All right. Well, we have a quorum, so I'm going to call the May 12th, 2021 meeting of the Public Facilities Commission to order. My gavel, little rock. Debbie, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Commissioner Block? Commissioner Block, you're muted.
Here.
Okay. Commissioner Isaacs?
Here.
Commissioner Carlos?
Here.
Commissioner Solomon?
Here.
Let the record show that Commissioner Torres will be running a little late. Vice Chair Mason?
Here.
And Chair Polachek.
Yeah. Thank you, Debbie. We'll move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Block, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening?
My honor.
Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of
America.
and to the republic for which
it
it stands,
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
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 God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with liberty and
justice
justice
for all.
for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Block. Next item is approval of this agenda for the May 12th meeting. Does anybody have any requested changes to the agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
I move that we approve the agenda.
Motion by Isaac, second by Carlos. Do we need a roll call vote, Debbie, or is it just a show of hands?
Show of hands is okay.
Okay, all those in favor, raise hands. Any opposed? Okay, the agenda is approved. And now we'll move on to approval of the minutes for the April 14th, 2021 meeting. Are there do any commissioners have any changes, corrections, edits that they would like to make? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the minutes of the April 14th meeting.
I move that we approve the minutes of the April 14th meeting.
Okay, motion by
Second.
Carlos, second by Vice Chair Mason. Do you need a roll call for this, Debbie, or show of hands?
I'm sorry, show of hands is okay.
Thank you. All right, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Okay, unanimous. We are rolling along. All right, public comment. Debbie, is there any public comment at this point?
No, we did not receive any public comments.
Okay, then we'll move on to commissioner comments. And we'll go in alphabetical order, starting with Commissioner Block.
Hi, everybody. Tonight is my last meeting. It's been an honor to serve the city of West Hollywood. For those of you who know the story, I'm sitting in Donna Sarr's commission seat. Donna had cancer and needed chemotherapy, and asked Councilmember D'Amico to give me a chance to keep the seat warm for her. And so he did. And I hope she's doing good enough to come back, but it is John D'Amico's choice. My first days on this commission were filled with so much that we could do. And then I learned about our purview. And before a few years ago, even my appointer, John D'Amico, chose to bypass the Public Facilities Commission when they did the parklets. His words on the city council was, let's not send it down to the Public Facility Commission. That's where things go to die. And some might remember Noemi, Susan, and of course, Ty, this item on the agenda right here, commissioner comments, period. We didn't have this. 3 years ago, the last item on the agenda was commissioner comments, and the next gavel was adjourned. We never had a chance to really discuss things. And it was Noemi and Brandon and Ty who we really spoke up to move and change this agenda to allow commissioners a lot of input. And then the Green City Award started, and that was a great thing too. And it really expanded our purview. And I'm excited to hand off the ball and trust the stewardship of Chair Polachek and all of you, because I know you'll do a great job. I'm sad to leave and miss the work that we all do together, and wish I could get to work with the new commissioners. But for me, there's a little bit of conflicts of interest these days, and it's time for me to move forward and for the commission to, to just do what it does best. And I'm just honored to serve with all of you, and I leave my thank yous to the end of the meeting. So.
Thank you, Commissioner Block. Commissioner Isaacs?
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Block, I'm sorry to see you go. You've been an asset to this commission, and I'll see you at the store because I walk by there all the time. So it's not over till it's over. And I'm just generally happy to be here and to get moving with the agenda, which looks like it's very long tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Isaacs. Commissioner Carlos?
Thank you, Chair. I'm very sorry that you're stepping aside, Commissioner Block. You've been a strong and passionate commissioner and chair. The Green City Awards program was your baby, and you'll always be linked with it, and you'll be missed on this commission. I want to say kudos to the city for the great job they did with the Urban Forestry Symposium and the tree planting we did at West Hollywood Elementary. In regards to the tree planting, I think it would be valuable for the PFC to add another annual event to West Hollywood Elementary in addition to Martin Luther King Day. It could be like a greening educational activity, something where we could coordinate with the California Native Plant Society or similar, and they could come and do a show and tell for the kids and how they could use native plants in their garden and yards and get them involved when they're young. That's all. Thank you.
Great thoughts, Commissioner Carlos. Thank you for that. Vice Chair Mason?
Sorry for that. Yeah, I'm actually just really excited that we're moving on some of these things, especially the agenda tonight excites me. I'm all about our parks, our public facilities, and now that we can get out in the world again a little more each day, we need these spaces more and more, and I just cannot wait to make all of these things the best we can for our community. So, and I wish I had been at the elementary school thing, and I'm sorry I missed it, but I will be at the next one.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Moving on to Commissioner Solomon.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Oh,
Hey,
Commissioner
Naomi.
Torres, welcome. Glad you're with us. We're just on Commissioner comment, and Commissioner Solomon is about to speak.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I just want to say, first of all, goodbye to Larry. It's been a pleasure serving with you. It's only been a few months, but I can already see that you have made impacts on this commission, which will survive your tenure, which is probably the greatest compliment of anything that you could do. Something I hope I can accomplish when I'm on here. So thank you for all that you've done. We will carry on in your passing from this commission. Please be sure to only write good things about the Public Facilities Commission and delete any comments underneath the story that might say otherwise. I want to echo Commissioner Carlos's comments about the annual tree planting event. It was a great event. Big thanks to the city staff for putting that together. And yeah, I would love to do that more than just a year, whatever the event may be. Maybe it's something that we can plan in one of these subcommittees that we talk about later this evening. But great event. Thanks to staff. Goodbye, Larry.
Thank you, Commissioner Solomon. Commissioner Torres.
Thank you, Chair Polachek. I was not aware that Commissioner Block was departing. So I'm really proud and honored to have served with you, Larry, to have had a great campaign last year. We learned a lot throughout it. I know that you're moving on to do better and bigger things. So I hope that you come back and support us for anything else that we do. So best of luck.
Thank you, Commissioner Torres. Commissioner Block, it has been a real privilege to have served with you on this commission. I've learned a lot from you. your contributions have been far and wide, as your fellow commissioners have noted. You've made a real difference in this community, and I know you'll continue doing that. You are a huge asset to whatever organization or body you choose to associate with. And we've been very lucky to have you. I also want to say that we have some very weighty items, not only tonight, but coming up on our agendas. And to your comment, Commissioner Block, about the place where items go to die, that is no longer going to be the case. We are the commission that is, thanks to you and others before you, we are the folks who are going to be carrying a lot of meaty issues forward to the City Council for approval. And so we have our work cut out in front of us, but I just want to acknowledge your contributions and to say that we will miss you. I want to also just note, as others have, I was unable to attend the tree planting, but I heard it was a successful event, and anything we can do to continue that type of activity would be terrific for this commission. I was able to participate in the tree expo. It was a really, really interesting set of 3 different presentations, and I highly encourage, it's posted on YouTube, and I highly encourage others, if they weren't able to take a look at it, if you have a chance, do take a look, because there was some very interesting information, some fascinating maps showing early West Hollywood and the type of landscape that was here originally. So I learned a whole lot from that. And so thank you, staff, for putting that together. It was great. And with that, we will move on to the consent calendar. We have no items on consent tonight. Public hearings, we have none tonight. And so we'll go to item 8, which is new business. The first item is the Arts Division update. And we have Rebecca Eman here. Did I pronounce your name right?
Close, Eman.
Eman, thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
And Helen, do you have anything you'd like to say first, or can I turn it over to Rebecca?
No, please, Rebecca's, I'm sure, ready to go.
Okay. Okay, Rebecca. Wow us with your presentation.
Yeah, right. So commissioners, thank you for having me here tonight. The Arts Division typically comes to report out upcoming temporary art exhibitions on a annual, sometimes biannual basis. And then whenever we program works in sites that we have not put artwork in before, we come seeking your guidance and approval of the identified site for the temporary art location. So I have provided a packet of information with beautiful visuals. I'm going to ask Debbie to put that up, and we can proceed.
Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. Is it possible, Debbie, for you to, there you go.
All right.
Great. Like I said, my name's Rebecca Eman. I'm the acting arts manager for the City of West Hollywood's Arts Division. Next slide. And we are a robust team, a mighty team of 5. We're very accessible and visible. I encourage you all, if you haven't yet, to engage with us either through our social media platforms or subscribe to our monthly newsletter if you want to hear about things firsthand. I would be happy to engage with you that way. Next slide. So tonight, there's a few things that I wanted to share. The first is our formal business, the new sites for artworks that the Arts Commission has approved that I'm seeking formal approval from the Public Facilities Commission on. And then the rest is I wanted to provide some updates on some of the great work that the Arts Division's been doing, including a cultural equity statement, some updates to our urban art collection that you all may be interested in hearing about, and then some updates on our temporary art exhibitions. Next slide, please. The first project that we're going to look at is by an artist named Tim Devlin. And Tim Devlin was approved for this project through our Art on the Outside program, which is a temporary public art program. It is an open application where artists can submit proposals for temporary art projects at any time throughout the year, and the commission reviews the proposals twice a year. So this project was approved by the commission in January. Tim is a licensed landscape architect. He's known for his private practice called House of Devlin. His work relies on the experimental combination of different materials, natural and man-made, to draw attention to the beauty of the natural world. And this particular installation that he's proposed is meant to reflect the color diversity and excitement of West Hollywood. The materials will include colorful dried flowers and foliage. And the proposed site for the installation is what you see on the left, is these 3 palm trees that we've identified in the median of the Santa Monica Boulevard at Westbourne. The exhibition is tentatively scheduled for August 9th through October 8th. And we understand that the material selection for this particular exhibition is very fragile. And so we also are in agreement with the artist that if for some reason the artwork deteriorates to the level which we find it, that it would require extraordinary maintenance, the city will ask the artist to remove it preemptively. So tonight I'm seeking approval for the location identified, which again is the traffic median at Santa Monica Boulevard and Westbourne Drive, as the temporary location for this exhibition in the city. So I think it's best if I do the presentation and then maybe the motions at the end of the presentation, if that's okay. Debbie, next slide, please. This next project, the Rainbow Neon Dog, is an exciting one. The owners of the Collar and Leash Pet Store, which was previously located at 8555 Santa Monica Boulevard, gifted a neon sign to the city in January 2020. The 30-year-old sign is currently in a conservation studio undergoing repairs for a reinstallation in the city. And we are seeking formal approval of the commission of the identified location, which is the Sunset Boulevard pedestrian entrance to Hart Park. So I've included a very rough rendering. Excuse me, there's no art skills in the arts division. But you can get a sense of the location of the neon sign, the approximate scale of the neon sign, and that it would sit above the fence line at that pedestrian entrance. The plans are that the bench and the trash can that are currently in view would not be included in the final exhibition. So those are the 2 sites that I'm going to seek formal approval on. Now we get to move into the fun stuff, which is a lot lighter, which is just an information only, so you all can sit back and relax. Next slide, please. In February of 2021, and then adopted by City Council in April of 2021, the Arts and Cultural Affairs and Arts Division adopted a cultural equity statement. And what this means is that the commission is openly embracing diversity, inclusion, and engagement with cultures and people that we may have not engaged with prior. And so what we will be doing over the course of the next several months to years is really taking a deep dive look at all of our existing programs, our applications, how we reach out to people. And we're going to take a look at that through the cultural equity lens to ensure that we are indeed receiving applications and that we're reaching artists from all different sectors of life. So we have, I invite you to read the entire cultural equity statement, which is posted on our website, weho.org/arts. Next slide, please. Some exciting news, as you all know, the West Hollywood Park is finally coming to a close. Yay, we're gonna have a park again. With that park, design is two significant additions to the urban art collection. One, which was already part of the collection I'll get to, but this one is brand new. It's a piece by Philip K. Smith. This was a piece that was commissioned in 2014 when the design of the park was wrapping up. The artist lives in Indio and is now internationally recognized. We're very fortunate to have snagged him when we did. But the artwork is essentially a number of these large volumes that are mirrored on the outside. And then on the interior spaces, they have LED lights. And there's a custom color choreography that the artist is developing. So during the day, the artwork will reflect all of its environment, as well as people who are interacting and engaging with the space. And then at night, it will have this really beautiful dance of light that will reflect and play off of one another. And we're really excited about the piece. It's inspired by an artwork that he did for the Coachella Music Festival in 2013. Next slide, please. And the urban art collection pieces are permanent pieces, so they will live with us for a very long time. And I'm sure you all know the Virginia Court neon diver. She was removed from the Santa Monica Boulevard in the last couple of months, and she's undergoing a full conservation. She's getting a facelift, all new neon, new paint. She's going to look sparkling new. And then her final destination will be at the entrance to the Aquatic Center. So she'll actually be seen on kind of a rooftop setting, and we will be able to see her probably from Santa Monica Boulevard, I would imagine, as you look towards the new Aquatic Center. So we're really looking forward to that. This has also been a project that has been long in the works, finally coming to fruition. Next slide, please. These I'm going to go through a little bit quicker. We have a really great lineup of temporary art exhibitions for the remainder of the year. So much more information is available on our website if you want to deep dive into any of the individual artists or artworks. So Debbie, if you just want to kind of go through these every couple of minutes, that would be excellent. The first I'm going to talk about is, again, neon. We installed a temporary neon exhibit of two signs, one stating "Relax, you are okay," and the second, "One Love," by the artist Scott Froschauer. Debbie, can you advance to the next one, please? Thank you. And these were timely installations. They were installed during COVID, and they are intended to stay through June of next year. And then an active exhibition that is currently undergoing an installation right now is this new piece called Meringue. And it's a series of these polycarbonate shapes created by an architect, a young architect. This is his first public art installation with a series of lights inside. And that will be in a kind of a spectrum palette for Pride Month. And then we have a series of digital artworks that are going to be displayed on the new electronic billboards on Sunset, part of the Sunset Arts and Advertising program. We call it Sunset Arts. We have excellent works by the Guerrilla Girls up on the existing billboards right now. And then the spectacular piece you see there is exhibiting a collection of works from the Propeller Group, who are young artists out of Vietnam. Next slide, please. We have an open call to artists. We're looking for 2D artworks, which will be printed on a vinyl piece. This is a rotating exhibition space that we have on the ground floor of the 5-story parking lot in West Hollywood Park. And we anticipate hosting this new exhibit to reveal in September with the opening of the park. Next slide, please. And then, of course, our Worley building. a really beautiful historic building out in which the Arts Division is currently located, maybe not for much longer, but will continue to be utilized by the city and city staff. And we are working on a council directive to install a series of vitrines, which are exhibition spaces that one archives can program with some rotating exhibits about LGBTQ history of the city. And then Arts is also commissioning a mural for the building's namesake, Daniel Worley, to illuminate and kind of educate about the building's namesake. Daniel Worley was a renowned fashion designer for the stars in the 30s and 40s. Next slide, please. In October, we will host an exhibition called Opulent Mobility, and in partnership with the Disability Advisory Board, we will showcase artists and artworks that celebrate mobility and define it as beautiful and elegant. And this artist has exhibited this particular concept of works for a number of years, and we're pleased to be able to host her in October to align with Disability Advisor or Disability Awareness Month. Next slide, please. Don't miss our virtual programs. We added a YouTube channel during this past year, so many of our programs are archived and accessible at any time. In fact, tonight is a WeHo Reads event as we speak. This fall, we will be featuring some really interesting virtual theater programs, and our concert series will continue this summer. Of course, One City, One Pride kicks off on May 22nd with a reading of Dear Harvey, which has been kind of our staple kickoff for One City, One Pride. And all of the One City, One Pride events will be virtual this year. So you can access them at any time. And a special one that I'll call out in that festival is the Stuart Timmins Tour. It's exciting for us that we've commissioned an artist team to document and memorialize this Stuart Timmins Tour. And if you're not familiar with it, it is a tour of LGBTQ history within the city of West Hollywood, and it is presented through the lens of performance, and it's a really fun and whimsical and educational experience. And I believe that's it.
Thank you,
so
Rebecca.
that's all I have. Yeah, thank you.
That was a fantastic presentation. It's remarkable how many opportunities there are within our community for art, and I'm glad we take advantage of those. So we'll go around and take questions from commissioners and then see if we have any members of the public who wish to speak. So start off with, this time we'll go the other way. So let's start with Commissioner Torres, please.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for that great presentation, Rebecca. It's amazing what's happening in the city of West Hollywood with all the art. A couple of questions that I had: how is this information disseminated to the city for people to know where it is? Are we gonna have it added on the app so they know, have like a map of where all the installations will be, or will there be a mailer that will be happening, be sent out, etc.?
So we typically announce all of our programs through our social media channels, through Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And then we always direct people back to the website, because majority of the work that we do are temporary programs and temporary installations. Things are always changing. And that seems to work for us.
Okay, great. And my second question, separate from since we have you here, in the future, will we be working with the businesses or some of the locations that are empty, if we're able to do that in the future? That's something that I want to plant a seed, or if they're already working on that, that would be amazing to see what's happening with that.
Yeah, that's a great question. And we did a call to artists last fall for what I call my Field of Dreams project. And the title of the exhibition is Windows of WeHo. And so we did a call to artists to respond to that for $1,000 grants to create temporary art installations in vacant storefronts. We are actively trying to secure locations for that exhibit. That's why I call it my Field of Dreams. I had the art before I had the location, but we are trying to sort that out. And if you know of anybody, please direct them our way and be happy to talk about what the requirements are.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And thanks again for being here and giving us all the information. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Solomon?
Hi, thanks so much for the presentation. Thanks for coming. Just a couple of quick questions from me. I don't know if you said this or not, I might have missed it, but who's the artist behind Neon Dog?
We don't know. We do know that the sign was created about 30 years ago, and we know the sign manufacturer, but we don't have that specific information.
Well, I love it. I like neon signs. The You're Okay. It's my new favorite one since the swimmer is taking a break for the moment. Second question is the new billboard on Sunset. I saw a media piece, I think it was CBS Los Angeles, about some complaints from residents about the brightness of the light. What's been the feedback that you've experienced since the sign has gone up?
So we have just launched the art program. It's new. And the press rollout is still coming in. So it's a TBD. We don't know yet.
Okay.
Any other questions, Commissioner Solomon?
That's all.
Oh, okay, thank you. Vice Chair Mason?
I guess, well, first, I love the neon dog too. Absolutely. I'm so glad we got that. I also was lucky enough to be able to put input in on the diver back in the day and help get that up on the roof of the aquatic center. So is there a chance though, since we are talking about Hart Park today, I guess I just wonder if we approve it, but then we end up, is there a chance it might block some of our new accessibility features if we end up, no, not on that side?
I have been working closely with Rick and Christina, and I don't believe that location will interfere with any of the modifications being planned for Hart Park.
I love it, and I like the location too. Absolutely. And then, actually, all my other notes are just how cool everything looks, especially the piece going into WeHo Park, the light up one. So I'm excited.
Parallel perpendicular. Oh yeah, keep your eyes out. It's going to be showstopper.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Commissioner Carlos?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Rebecca, for that wonderful presentation. And you have some very wonderful and exciting installations on the boards and existing. Now, as far as like the matters that before us tonight, as far as those two temporary locations, I'll start with the neon dog. I love the neon dog. And I think that location, that stretch of Sunset, I think it's a great spot for it. It's kind of a right now, it's kind of a dark, quiet area, kind of a dead zone. And I think this could help activate that spot on Sunset. So I'm all in favor of the neon dog at that spot. Now, as far as the garden trees, I'm not. Even though it's an interesting idea, I'm not in favor of covering up the trees. I think the trees stand on their own. They're beautiful as they are. I think it would adulterate the trees, and it's not what I'm looking for as far as art on the outside. But other than that, you guys are doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Carlos. Commissioner Isaac?
Thank you. Yes, Rebecca, what I love about all these installations is that they're so varied. Is it possible, in thinking about diversity, I think what I was thinking about was the diversity of expression from people of different cultures, different races in the artwork itself. That's what I was imagining. So I was wondering if that's something that you're taking into consideration as far as artwork that's coming up, not only recognizing minority artists but also recognizing various types of installations that reflect diversity.
Mhm. In short, yes.
Oh, good.
Our definition of diversity is vast and rich, and we want to make sure that we hit it all.
Great. And how do you determine what is a permanent and what's a temporary installation?
That's a great question. Like I said, majority of the works that I presented tonight are temporary installations. And those are reviewed and approved through our Art on the Outside program. The Urban Art Collection is a specific program that is funded through Percent for Art dollars. And Percent for Art dollars are tied to new development. So when new developers come into the city, they have an option of spending art or spending a percentage of their project on art to be placed on site permanently, or they pay an in lieu fee. And the in lieu fee is what funds our Art on the Outside program. So it really, it starts with the intent. Is the intent for it to be a permanent piece or the intent to be a temporary piece? Sometimes temporary turn into permanent, but not very often.
One other question I see about the marshmallows. I'm sorry, the meringues. Excuse
Yeah.
me. That's very whimsical. I'm going to miss the cactus installation, though. I thought that
Yeah.
was really lovely on Santa Monica Boulevard. It's right near my apartment, and I love walking by there with my dog. So what do? Do you photograph those installations and post them on YouTube or on another medium so that we can see former examples of the art that has been part of West Hollywood?
Yeah, we definitely document everything. We'll send a city photographer out who will document the piece, and will announce the piece through a formal press release with photos attached. And then we also share it through all of our social media channels. And then there is an archive kind of document essentially that exists on the website. So people can access that at any time. And then, of course, the fun of Google Maps is that you can just change the year and you can see all of the art change that way too. That's pretty fun.
Thanks so much, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Commissioner Block?
Hi. So it's funded by the developments, but as the art itself, is it commissioned? Is it leased, or is it paid for?
Most of it is leased. Most of it we are borrowing. And we loan it for a period of time, agreed upon period of time. Sometimes the artwork proposal requires a fabrication component. Sometimes it is already existing and we're finding a location to install it. It really varies.
Is there a cost associated with each of the setups?
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. The Art on the Outside is designated a determined budget every year from our art fund, and we work within that to program the city for that year.
And did we use new funds in this year's budget, or was this an old budget pre-COVID that actually may have been trimmed to kind of we set this up a couple of years ago? Is this off the old budget or off the new budget? Like
the fund was
allocated?
The fund was established in 1987 and has been building for a number of years. And we draw down on it with, like I said, a finite amount to work with every year. And then when there are significant commissions, like the Neon Dog, for example, we would utilize funding from that same source.
Just a couple more, like what happened to the neon that was on top of where Movie Town Plaza, that particular camera that was donated to the city? And is that part of this?
That,
On the
I
outside?
don't believe it was neon. It was a steel structure, a steel sculpture. That one unfortunately disappeared. We had expressed interest to the owner that we wanted it, and it got lost. So that one is no longer.
Going back to your original question about the placement of the signs on Westbourne, when the first slide, I didn't get that clearly, and I couldn't see that clearly, but it appeared to me, just maybe correct me or put up that slide, that sort of is obstructing a crosswalk, or it can be obstructing a crosswalk if it's pre the light in that particular island that you're talking about, which to me is a terrible location, as people often make a U-turn. That particular intersection is not even allowable a U-turn. It's a left turn up Westbourne on its own, and it's also a left turn up Westbourne onto Santa Monica. That is a strange place to have something blocking the view.
Debbie, would you mind pulling up that slide? So maybe if we're able to study it a bit further, I can alleviate some concerns.
Because we're dealing with all opportunities in the city for the best placement of these signs. It's the best placement. It doesn't have to be the second best placement. So yes, I'd like to see that slide again. I didn't have enough time to look at that. But while she's finding that slide, the neon up on Sunset is interesting too, because I think by putting the neon up on Sunset is a separate question. There's or do you want to answer this one first? I think let's answer this one first. It's right up already.
Okay. So the proposed installation is to actually closely wrap these individual trees with colorful bands of material. And so the intent is not to obstruct any view. The intent is to really stay streamlined with the shape of the trunk of the tree. And the Arts Commission did talk about a number of locations for this particular proposal. We talked about the median site where the meringues are going at Doheny, but there was concern about the visual conflict between this particular exhibit and the meringue exhibit. So we moved away from that. And then we talked about other median locations, like the one, there's one closer to Pavilions. And we moved away from that because there wasn't any sort of pedestrian access. And we find that whenever we put art anywhere, people want to get to it and they want to get right up on it. They want to touch it. They want to see it. And so we charged the artist to continue looking. We looked at the median site at the Croft Holloway, Santa Monica intersection, where the current neon exhibit is, and where the diver used to be. That site, again, for similar reasons, there was just too much visual conflict with the existing neon exhibit. We didn't want to do that. And this site has not been programmed before with art. We thought it was an inventive use of the space. It is just temporary. It's for 1 month's time. If the materials start to deteriorate, then we will immediately remove it. But we like to take risks. In the Arts Commission, we like the wacky and the weird, and we want to do things that haven't been done before, which is why we really gravitated towards this.
Well, I appreciate that, but I think you said it yourself. You said people want to look at it, feel it, touch it, and you're dealing with a crosswalk here. It would be distracting on a crosswalk being so close. And I just can't think of this as the most optimum site for that among every single opportunity in the city, right on top of the crosswalk. With your own words, people want to see it, feel it, and touch it. So that's a distraction while people are driving or crossing. The second site was the dog site up on Sunset, and that's a perfect site. But I do think that particular site should go hand in hand with the development of Hart Park. And the discussions on the design of Hart Park was the question of, in that entranceway, will it be an elevator or will it be a ramp? And it would seem if we're gonna go to attract a lot of dogs to that entranceway and promote it, we should consider the elevator as a not great option for the dogs. And we might consider the ramp and they go hand in hand. If people are gonna know that that's the entrance to a dog park, it would be much easier to walk down the ramp and have Arts needs to coordinate with the reconstruction of the park so that it's not, two things going in a different direction. Because the elevator is going to be confusing for dogs or multiple dogs, but a ramp is 24/7. You just keep walking in and walking out and walking up, and there's no waiting for the button, no lines, and dogs or leashes getting caught inside an elevator. So that to me is the best location, included with a ramp. You know what I mean? That the ramp is one of the choices that we have in our redesign of the Hart Park, which was up separately. So I hope you could work together with that.
Oh, staff always works together. I can't speak to what the final design would be, but we're definitely working closely together.
Because the leashes can get caught. It can be dangerous. The leashes getting caught in elevators and multiple dogs lining up to entrance to Sunset, because we're basically advertising that as that entrance to the dog park with that neon sign up there. But anyway, that's my questions.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Torres, did you have a question?
Yes, thank you so much, Chair. Sometimes I appreciate Commissioner Carlos's and Commissioner Block's input on the art for the trees. And perhaps, Rebecca, if you have any type of feedback or information about what the art is about, perhaps give us more information on why we're blocking trees or we're doing that. So is there something that we can read about, or do you know anything about the piece of art that we're thinking about?
Yeah, so the installation I shared is meant to reflect the color diversity and excitement of West Hollywood. The artist is proposing to wrap the trees in a safe way with chicken wire and to create these installations of temporary foliage installed within the substructure.
So just about diversity, about color, about what inclusion and all that stuff. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to triple check that. Thank you so much.
Sure.
I have just one question, Rebecca, and then we're going to move into public comment on this. When you have this whole Art Outside program, when you have art located or proposed to be located in the public right of way, does it come to this commission? Or are these decisions primarily made with the Arts Commission?
In general, they're primarily made with the Arts Commission. And if it is a new site that, like specifically the Neon Dog, for example, that we're seeking a permanent location for, then we definitely bring it to you all for additional review.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Debbie, do we have any public comment on this item?
We didn't receive anything by email. However, we do have some members of the public on the call. So if you have a comment to make, please unmute yourself and let us know. Okay, so no public comments.
Okay, then let's move into discussion. We can open it up. What's before us is approval of the site, the traffic median at Santa Monica Boulevard at Westbourne for the temporary art exhibition entitled Garden Trees, and then approving the site at Sunset Boulevard entrance at Hart Park for the permanent art exhibition titled Neon Dog. Anybody want to either have points to be made, or I'll entertain a motion. Commissioner Block and then Commissioner Vice Chair Mason. Commissioner Block? Unmute yourself. Unmute.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I'm not ready to support that Westbourne without more information on in that crosswalk section, without a recommendation of possible alternatives. I think this one on Sunset is okay, but maybe we can put a caveat on that motion that we should work with the they should work together with the construction of the park. Actually, the construction of the park will probably be finished after this art well, this is permanent up on Sunset. So yeah, so we should take into mind as that main entrance is a dog park, and we should be able to facilitate, easy access. So, but I'm not ready on the Westbourne one to really just say that this is the right decision.
Okay. Vice Chair Mason.
Yeah, I just, sorry to be contrary, but I hear the fellow commissioners' comments, especially Commissioner Carlos. I understand the natural beauty of trees, especially considering this is only about a month and only a couple trees. I'd kind of like to see if it can like enhance or if we never do it again, I actually, that crosswalk has a middle button there. There's a little more room, I think, than any other kind of median. So I think it's not so much a danger, a public safety danger. I'm not totally qualified to speak on that though. And then, so I actually, and unfortunately, I think it's not taking up a bunch of space. It's on the tree. I think we should get things going so we can keep all these great ideas moving. I would like to, yeah.
Do you want to make that motion?
Yeah, actually, I would like to make the motion that we approve both should we, unless somebody has any problem with us doing them together, I would like to motion that we vote to approve both installations, or we can separate them if our commissioners feel. Commissioner Carlos seems like he wants to.
No, thank you. I think we should separate it. I don't see why not.
Well, they are as two recommendations. So let's start with, so we have now a motion. Is there a second for the garden trees?
I'll second.
Okay. So we have a motion and second. Any other discussion on this?
This is for which item?
This is for the garden trees, the temporary installation at Westbourne. Commissioner Carlos.
I'll just say one more thing, and I mean it's not new. I don't think we should be strapping chicken wire onto trees in West Hollywood, and whatever we're doing with it. I think it should be like verboten. You should let the trees be. The meringue installation in the median is tremendous. It's beautiful. It sits there. It's appreciated. But we're attacking the trees. I mean, I don't know how we're going to attach this chicken wire. It's going to be covering the bark for a month. It's just, to me, it's not worthy. And that's my point. Thanks.
Just for clarification, Rebecca, is the chicken wire actually going to be attached to the tree, or is it basically around the trunk of the tree and not touching, and that only the art components are attached to the chicken wire?
The latter. The chicken wire will wrap the tree. There will be some sort of banding to secure it in place, but the art elements will then be woven within the chicken wire.
Right. So again, just to clarify, is the chicken wire attached to the tree, or is it essentially around the tree with room in between?
I don't have a level of detail to respond to that.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. All right. Well, we have a motion and a second. So let's.
Sorry, Chair,
yes.
I apologize. Just a little caveat on that. It's like, so long as the tree is not going to be affected, I second that.
Okay, is that friendly to the maker? Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. If there's no other discussion, we'll move to a vote. Debbie?
Okay, Commissioner Block,
No.
Commissioner Isaacs,
Yes.
Commissioner Carlos,
No.
Commissioner Solomon,
No.
Commissioner Torres,
Yes.
Vice Chair Basin,
Yes.
and Chair Polachek.
Yes. So that is a 4-3 vote in favor, I believe. Okay, then let's move on to the second recommendation, which is for the approval of the site at Sunset Boulevard entrance to Hart Park for the permanent art exhibition titled Neon Dog. And I just want to say for this one, obviously we have the item following this on Hart Park. there is going to be much discussion on the things that we're supposed to be talking about that are under our purview. But don't forget that this is a design that will eventually go to council for approval. So while we have the opportunity to move this forward, it will be done in conjunction with that overall design of the park. So I just wanted to say that. I don't think we're getting too far ahead of ourselves. It'll be situated in a way that does not obstruct accessibility and works. So I think we would leave that to staff to ensure. So I think what we're really focused on is this, do we want to have this piece of art in that location? So any other comments or questions on this? Okay, if not, then I'll entertain a motion to go with staff recommendation. Yes.
So, okay, so I move that we approve the neon dog for the Sunset Strip Hart Park location with the caveat that the final design of the park will take into consideration the location of that sign.
Thank you. Is there a second for that?
Second.
Was that you, Commissioner Block? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So we have a motion by Carlos, second by Block. Commissioner Solomon, do you have a question?
I was trying to second.
Oh, okay.
Larry beat me to it.
All right. Any other discussion on this? All right. We'll have a roll call vote, please, Debbie.
Okay. Commissioner Block?
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Isaacs?
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Carlos?
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Solomon?
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Torres?
Yes.
Vice Chair Mason?
Yes.
Okay, and Chair Polachek.
Yes. So that passes 7-0 unanimously. And Rebecca, thank you so much for the presentation. It was illuminating for all of us. We appreciate it. You're getting
My pleasure. Hope to see you again soon.
yes, thank you very much. Don't be a
Thank you.
stranger.
Bye.
Okay,
Yeah.
bye. Okay, we will move on to our next item, which is 8B, the William S. Hart Park Site Improvement Project. And we will have, I think, an introduction by Helen, and then we'll move to a staff report by Christina Sarkis and I think Rick Abraham.
Rick Aberson, correct.
Yeah.
So thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, and Commissioners. This is going to be probably a pretty extensive item this evening, so I'm going to go ahead and make my introductions as short as possible. I'm just trying to set the tone for the actions that we're requesting from the Commission this evening. So on March 19th, 2018, the City Council directed staff to develop a plan for making improvements to William S. Hart Park, which will be outlined in the upcoming presentation. In addition to the initial direction, Council requested that the existing wood chips be replaced with artificial turf as soon as possible. Just a little caveat to that. This was brought to the Council did put this direction in place in 2018. However, we were awaiting the renewal of the lease for Hart Park, and that we did not receive that until December 2019 through the City of Los Angeles. So we did not want to make major investments at that location until we had a new long-term 35-year lease. So that's why this item seems a little stale, but in actuality it is not. And then we started the process directly following that, and then COVID started. So we eventually did shift to a virtual platform, but that brings us to where we are now. So, and the final direction requested was that staff present its recommendations to the Public Facilities Commission to review before returning to council. So this evening, we're looking at two different items that we're asking the commission to consider. The first action is to provide input on the staff recommendations, which you'll see in the presentation on accessibility, upgrades, and turf selection. And then we are also asking for, and that item, actually the first item, we're asking for you to give us a motion and a vote to recommend or not recommend staff's recommendations to the council. And then the next item would be, there are several different improvements that were through the process that came up. So in turn, we'll also be asking your input on that, and then just a consensus motion on that to say, yes, we'd like you to also inform the council of our input on those items, but not necessarily make an action like the first item. We will be, Christina and Rick will be doing the majority of the presentation. The first section of the presentation will deal with the staff recommendations that we'll be taking back to council in regards to turf and accessibility. After that portion of the presentation is complete, we will have questions. Then in turn, we'll go on to the second portion of the presentation, followed by commissioner questions. And then as normal, we would bring in the public comment at that time. And then following public comment, then we would have the commission have their discussion regarding the entire presentation, and then follow that up by the motions and actions. So I am going to go ahead and turn this over to Christina Sarkis from the Urban Design and Architectural Studio. And she is also joined by Rick Aberson, the manager of the Urban Design and Architect Studio this evening. So welcome, Christina.
Are you all able, good evening, everyone. Are you all able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, well, thank you very much. I want to just, good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, and all esteemed commissioners. It's really nice to see your faces, see some new faces and some familiar faces. Welcome to the Public Facilities Commission, and thank you very much for all your dedication and service. We appreciate everyone taking the time to be here this evening, and want to present to you the improvements for Hart Park. So as Helen mentioned, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Christina Sarkis with the City of West Hollywood. I'm an architect in the Urban Design and Architecture Studio, which I'll often probably refer to this evening as UDAS. So if you hear that, that's what that stands for. And I'm managing this project. Joining me this evening in presenting is my fellow architect and manager of the Urban Design and Architecture Studio, Rick Abramson, and you'll be hearing from Rick momentarily. Before we get into the presentation, though, I would like to just take a moment to acknowledge the efforts of the people that are involved in making this, bringing this project forward. And they really wouldn't be possible this evening without the visioning and the encouragement of our city council. There's the city council members supported and gave us this direction. We certainly wouldn't have reached this point without our Public Facilities Ad Hoc Committee. Their support has been incredible. So I want to thank you very much, Commissioner Block, Commissioner Isaacs, and Commissioner Torres. And we certainly couldn't have reached this point without the members in our community, the Hart Park park goers, and other members such as those in the Actors Studio. So these folks really love our parks. They care for them. They've showed up and provided constructive and relevant information regarding the improvements to the park. And of course, I want to thank our amazing facility staff who has been involved in the project: Helen Collins, Debbie Gonzalez, and Steve Campbell have been providing continuous support and ideas, and you're always on the ready. So thank you very much. So as Helen mentioned, regarding tonight's purpose and goals, I just will reiterate again, just in case anyone has joined us late, that the primary tasks are twofold. One is to share with you the council's directives and staff recommendations, receive your input before we return to council with the recommended concept plan. And then two, to share with you the additional designs and concepts that are envisioned as really enhancements within the park, and receive your idea and receive your input on those as we prepare the concept plans. So as far as the presentation format, I'll begin. I'll go through the council directives, and then we'll take a break, and then Rick will present. So the primary scope of work for this is exterior improvements and upgrades. As Helen mentioned, in 2018, City Council directed staff to develop improvement plans that would take into consideration accessibility, parking, the historical aspects on the site, dog park improvements, lighting, and security. Included was the directive to replace the existing wood chips that were covering the dark surface area with a dog-friendly formulated synthetic turf. The community outreach that we're doing that we've done in the past, and this presentation of our findings was also part of the directive. So in order to understand what improvements were needed within the park, we first needed to verify what was existing. So here you see an existing plan that identifies the features within the park, and the items that you see highlighted in red are items that require accessibility upgrades. Most of you are probably aware of Hart Park. It's bordered on the north, to the north by Sunset Boulevard, to the south by DeLongpre, and it's just west of Sweetser. It has really wonderful amenities within the park. There's the AIDS Memorial Garden. And you can see the AIDS Memorial Garden. There's a picnic area. There's also, of course, the off-leash dog park and the historically significant Hart House, which is currently leased by the Actors Studio. In 2017, the city hired a certified access specialist to perform an accessibility survey. And the findings of that report were included as part of this staff report for today's meeting. And then in 2019, the report was revisited by MIG, the consultants who originally wrote the report, and were found to be still in sync with the current codes. And then in late 2019, once the lease with the City of Los Angeles, the 35-year lease with the City of Los Angeles was signed, this now gives us unlimited access to the house and the park. And then we were able to commence with the community outreach efforts. So in January of 2020, the community outreach efforts began. We had pop-up events that were held at various locations throughout West Hollywood, including Hart Park, the Farmers Market at Plummer Park, West Hollywood Park, and we were able to have one facilitated community meeting that was held in February. All of the community feedback that we gathered with regard to the amenities and the improvements were collected during these events. However, due to COVID-19, the remaining events were put on hold until September of 2020. And then we resumed those events, and they included a presentation to the Disability Advisory Board, as well as another facilitated community meeting. And again, more of that input was collected and put into what we're about to show you tonight. So the UDA staff, we've been working again with MIG to develop these concept ideas, and the ideas, we want them to be sensitive to the existing topography and landscaping. It is somewhat of a challenging site due to the drop within the park from Sunset into the park. We're also incorporating the community feedback and then wanting to provide various options that Rick will cover later that would enhance the park users' experience. But the key feedback that we received from the community on what they felt was important for actually any park or any dog park pretty much was revolved around the cleanliness, safety, maintenance of the park, ease of access to the park, and for the dog parks that there be dog-friendly amenities within the park. In addition to the accessibility and the dog surface directives, there also are some other like enhancement opportunities that within the park that we've explored and we're still exploring. Rick's going to focus, as I said, on these later in the presentation, but overall the areas include pedestrian access, a secured pedestrian access points within the park, whether it be from the ramp location of the main entrance to the park on de Longpre, or the stairwell, bringing maybe landscape art into the park, enhancing the gathering space for picnicking or enjoyment of the park, the memorial garden itself, and also looking at the parking lot as an opportunity for some flexibility for future events or programmed events. So let's focus now on the 2 directives which staff would like to recommend to City Council and what we would like to get your input and approval on. One is the accessibility upgrades within the park, and then the second is the resurfacing of the dog park. So the first council directive, what you're seeing here is it's an existing model of the site showing walkways and pathways within the park and the parking lot. And just a reminder that for this portion of work, we're only focused on the site. Any upgrades or enhancements to the existing house and structures will come at a later time as a separate project. So as you can see, based on the model here, there are some there's some steep cross slopes and some steep pathways. That's what's indicated by the orange. The orange indicates that the cross slopes maybe are greater than the 2% allowed. And you see how we've got the existing ramp here. The orange identifies these areas as definitely not in compliance. And our goal to council is to turn all the orange and even some of the dark blue into light blue to the extent possible. So these areas that aren't compliant include, as I mentioned, the parking lot, the access to the viewing area that's in the northern part of the park, pathways around the dog park, and the dog park itself is not accessible. So here, our staff recommendation, really what we would like and what we want the commission to approve is to upgrade all of the non-accessible areas within the park, which would include regrading of the paths, providing access to all of the park amenities and within the park amenities, and then to integrate the accessible parking. So just to further illustrate what accessible parking upgrades would be needed, the current parking lot configuration that you see down here does not have any compliant accessible parking. And the code for this, for the size of this parking lot, the number of spaces that it accommodates would require 1 van accessible parking space with an accessible passenger aisle, and then a path of travel directly into the park. So here's 3 different layouts and possible scenarios that provide the accessible parking. And you can see too that as well as taking people directly into the park, it also eliminates the need for people in a wheelchair to have to go behind any of the parked cars in order to access the parking lot. And then we'll talk about pedestrian accessibility. And just to be clear, based on the CASP report and the studies that we have done, the main entrance into the park is from de Longpre. I know there was some previous discussion just before our presentation about the entrance on Sunset. And we're looking in this recommendation to upgrade the main entrance, and that access point is on de Longpre. We've got 3 varying types of designs that we are open to hear your feedback on. And The staff recommendation is this lower one, which is a sloping pathway design. There's no ramps involved. And also we have eliminated the east stair. So we liked this idea because primarily the sloping walkways are much friendlier to people in wheelchairs, to people who may have difficulty walking. It's just a nice gradual incline or decline depending on the direction you're going in. But the top layout really is just a similar to what is already existing, and it's a sloping ramp design. If you recall, there were some areas in this ramp that were greater than the 8%, which is the maximum allowable. We'd be looking at regrading this to a 5%, which is still a ramp. It still need handrails, but it's a gradual incline. And then we still would keep the stairs on the east side. The design in the middle is just more of an entry landing. It's more of a entrance and welcoming area. We would have portions of it that are still part of the ramp, a ramp. We're not showing all of the handrails just for clarity, but we would need handrails on this. And then a new staircase that takes you to Hart Park, or to the Hart House, I'm sorry, in this location. And then our design that we are recommending, no handrails. What looks to be like a handrail here is really just, we're exploring the idea if we needed to put in a guardrail up at this point, just because of the drop or fall. But those are things that would come in during later on in the actual design. But this lower one, again, is the sloping pathway is the staff recommendation. And then the second recommendation is the council directive to replace the existing wood chips with a dog-friendly synthetic turf. Based on the feedback that we received from the community members at all of the parks, that throughout the various parks that we went to in West Hollywood, the turf was, aside from it being accessible for everyone, it's also easier to walk for dogs for their paws. It's easier to spot any kind of sharp objects or anything hidden that could be hidden in the chips. So we would like to make the recommendation to go with the synthetic turf. However, we did hear during our surveys from people who do frequent Hart Park that they are in favor of the wood chips. So we will cover that portion in the second part of this, but right now staff's recommendation is to go with the dog-friendly synthetic turf. So that's the first portion. Here are two recommendations: to make the park totally accessible and to install dog-friendly synthetic turf in the dog area. And then I'll turn it over. I believe we're going to now receive commissioner feedback before we move on to the second.
Thank you, Christina. So this is the portion of our meeting where we're going to entertain commissioner questions on the two recommendations before us, which again are the upgrading of the non-accessible areas within the park and the installation of the dog-friendly synthetic turf. So we will start with, do we want to remove the shared screen so that we can see each other? Can we do that? And if we have to go back for reference, we can do that. Let's start with Commissioner Block, please.
Hi. Well, on the staff recommendation for the item with the 2% slope, that could be used for bicycles. So how are there a couple of things? Are there benches along the pathway for people to sit if they are old and walking up the slope and they have a cane and they need to sit down? Or and are there bike rails for people who choose to park their bike there and attend into the park? That would be, I don't know if you should answer the questions and ask one after that, or.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Block. Those are great questions. I can either share my screen or just, I'm sorry that I didn't point those out. But yes, there are areas along the pathways, regardless of whichever design we actually go with. We've accommodated for bench seating and for wheelchairs, for companion seating as well along the path. So people can stop if they want to at any point. We do have landings as required by code every 30 feet, but then there are these little pop-out areas where people can sit and just relax or rest. And then as far as the amenities for the bike rack for cyclists, that will definitely be considered as part of the amenities, which we will address, benches and bike racks and drinking fountains and all those wonderful things in a park as we get more, once we get an approved design and look at them during the design development.
Thank you. As it slopes on from DeLong Pre and the 2% grade, how does that marry the top grade up to Sunset? Is that similar? Will that slope 2% grade allow the same person to be able to enter off DeLong Pre and exit off on Sunset through the park, or are there two different types of entry things? Should we do them in tandem with each other, or are they both separate items? The, say, entrance from DeLong Pre versus the entrance from Sunset?
Yes, there are two access points into the park, one from Sunset and then one from DeLong Pre. The accessible point of access is on DeLong Pre because that is the property address, that is the main entrance into the park. So that's where the ramp will be. There is a separate, and Rick is going to talk about this in the next portion. We are not required to provide an accessible route from Sunset into the park because the main access is from DeLong Pre. But there are stairs, and the stairs need to be made accessible. We need to have handrails. We need to have no striping. They need to be painted. So there's requirements for accessibility that people who aren't in a wheelchair but still may have a disability we'd need to accommodate that. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. How wide is the path? Does it accommodate somebody coming, down and somebody going up at the same time?
Well, we haven't really designed it yet, but at the minimum width would be 5 feet.
With the dog, how wide is the entranceway, say, in West Hollywood Park? That's a very wide one. Is that 12 feet, 15 feet?
The promenade there along the where the dog park is. Oh yeah, that's probably, Helen, maybe, I'm not sure if I don't want to put you on the spot, but it's probably at least 15
At least, maybe even
yeah.
wider than that, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's
What
intended as a promenade.
What is the requirement on the street for sidewalk for, walking two ways? Is that a 4 feet clearance or a 5 feet, 6 feet clearance generally?
4 feet, I believe. Yeah.
Okay, so that's question. I guess the other question comes down to this big dog, little dog park. It looks like from the first slide here that we really didn't take into account those options that included a small dog park, which may include the chips, because they weren't going to all be the same with the green turf. The chips were overwhelmingly approved and requested in the community survey, and staff, I understand, staff's concerns, but it feels like we didn't really listen well or adapt to it, and we just kept pushing the same point of view versus really using the community input, which was overwhelming for the chips and a smaller dog park. So is that still in the works? So after we go through this approval?
So what we're proposing, there's two things going on here. One is the surface material, and the other is the configuration of the dog park, as you bring up for the large dog, small dog. Right now, what we're going to address later in the next portion, staff is recommending for the surface material to go with the council direction of the dog-friendly synthetic turf. We did hear from a lot of people throughout West Hollywood, and the majority of Hart Park goers do like the wood chips. However, taking everything else into account with regard to it being accessible, the dog park does need to be accessible. So we need to at least provide some type of accessible pathway. The synthetic turf is completely accessible throughout the dog park. And then the other issues that I brought up with regard to the being friendlier on dog paws, and finding sharps, being able to easily detect sharp objects. That's why staff is going in the direction of recommending the synthetic turf. But we are planning with the second part of the presentation to have a further discussion with what the Hart Park goers primarily were interested in. We heard that. We heard it primarily at Hart Park. We didn't necessarily hear it at the other locations, but it's important that we address it, and we plan on addressing that in the next portion.
And what about the big dog, little dog section, which sort of
We'll talk about that as well. That'll be part of our dog park configuration discussion. Right now, we're just focusing for this portion of the presentation for discussion and approval of the staff recommendation to go with the synthetic turf, but we can have that. I think we're going to do that at the end of this both presentations.
What were the main reasons pointed out in the survey why the goers at Hart Park wanted the wood chips? What was the main reason that they preferred that? Did they cite that reasoning?
I think the main reason was that they did like the idea that it was a natural, not a synthetic product.
Are we using in Kings Road Park, are we going to use the chips or the synthetic grass?
Helen,
For Kings Road Park, I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Well, around that playground area where we went to redo the playground.
Well, when we redo playgrounds, we use a different type of material. It'll be synthetic, but it's not going to be. We'll be removing the wood chips when we do the playgrounds. It's kind of a natural progression as we've gone through over the years upgrading playgrounds. Just like now we're doing dog parks, is that we're going to products that are designed for that. I mean, the wood chips. I could get into a long conversation about the wood chips, but for Kings Road Park, we would be looking at the synthetic for the playground.
The maintenance of the synthetic grass, especially more difficult versus the chips?
The maintenance of the synthetic grass, if we use West Hollywood Park for an example, it depends. I mean, we do have more of a day-to-day maintenance requirement, and Christina and I have already discussed this because we're both very familiar with that West Hollywood Park install. And there's some things that we would definitely do different to assist and make that maintenance process a little less difficult. But in regards to the wood chips are, if we were to maintain them at the level of, the level that we maintain the West Hollywood Park project, we would be replacing those wood chips on a monthly basis probably. So at the end of the day, I think that there's an even balance between cost and maintenance.
Right.
Currently wood chips are cheaper, but I think if we were trying to reach that same standard, then we would be looking at comparable, maybe a little bit less for wood chips, but comparable in cost. And I mean, there's a lot of other factors that go with the wood chips too, but I don't want to steal Rick's thunder.
The synthetic is much more expensive. The daily cost of it would allow us to replace wood chips for the same cost of maintenance once a month, or even save money, I think. Is that by the past conversations of the problems with the park and the synthetic grass, the heat, and that was always a problem, the heat and the smell. I don't know if Hart Park's going to have the same issue with the sun as West Hollywood Park that causes some of those problems, but it has to be watered down. How many times a day?
We clean it twice a day. The Hart Park, of course, again, we'll get into that a little bit later. I mean, right now we're just discussing. We'll get into the part about the. I don't know if that's coming later in the presentation, Christina, about the shade.
Yeah, with regard to the shade, we can show you some model studies that we did. We have a different environment and at Hart Park than at West Hollywood Park. There's a lot more trees. There is a lot of, foliage and conifers and trees that in the summertime when the heat is at the most, the park, the dog areas and the park itself is naturally shaded by these trees. And we would also accommodate any supplemental shade that might be needed, possibly Rick and Rick will speak to this as well with, structures, tensile shade cloths or sailcloths that we can certainly mitigate that. But we don't have the same kind of environment at Hart Park that we do at West Hollywood Park with regard to nature.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Block. Let's move on to Commissioner Isaacs. And let me just remind commissioners, let's really focus for this part of the questioning. This is focusing just on the two recommendations before us. We'll have ample opportunity to have the presentation on the other amenities and have those questions answered and discussion to follow that. So if we could just focus our questions on the surface and the pathways. Commissioner Isaacs.
Thank you, Chair. Hi. How are you, Christina? It's good to see you again.
It's so nice to see you too, Commissioner Isaacs. Thank you.
I like the staff recommendation for the gradual ramp from DeLongpre. I have a question about the eastern stairway. Did you decide to eliminate that stairway for safety reasons or to put something else there or what?
Rick, would you like to take this question since you started that discussion previously?
Certainly. Yeah, I think good evening, commissioners. This is Rick Abramson, city architect and manager of the Urban Design and Architecture Studio. I think the east stair is a very steep inclined stair that would need upgrades, handrails and other components to make it fully compliant. And given its location, we just felt that for security reasons and having a more proper welcoming entry into the park, that considering removing that stair would actually enhance the experience. And we'll talk more specifically about some of the security and welcoming concepts in the latter half, but that would be the reason.
That makes sense. I also agree that the AstroTurf is the better of the two. Somebody's going to become very rich who invents a surfacing that to supplant the AstroTurf. So I like the idea that you're providing additional shade, or I think I saw there was providing of additional shade with some type of canvas or overhead awning type thing to supplement the shade that the trees provide. So I like that, and I think that will work well, and I don't think there'll be as much of a problem with sun and the heat as there has been with West Hollywood Park. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Isaacs. And I just want to raise one point. The synthetic turf that we would be recommending and are thinking of is really not AstroTurf. Just a minor point. This is formulated specifically for dogs. It doesn't have any, it wouldn't have, the type of properties that in the past some of the AstroTurf has had that are hazardous to health and containing lead. So it is formulated specifically for dogs. Just to clarify that.
Can I jump in real quick? Would it be possible to share the screen again with the 3 different ramp proposals? Since we don't have a copy of this presentation, it's kind of hard to remember the differences as we're discussing it.
Sure.
Sure, here you go. Can you see?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, great.
Yeah, great.
Okay, Commissioner Carlos.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Christina and Rick. This is, you guys have done a great job, and I guess along with MIG, and it's obviously a very challenging space. There's a lot of levels and a lot of things going on. I attended the first pop-up at Hart Park, and we did have a tremendous amount of diverse opinions on everything, on all directions of what should be done up there. And I appreciate your outreach to try to get a consensus on that. Excuse me, I'm leaning towards the canine turf because even though it does heat up more than the bark or the wood chips, you don't have the issue of there's a lot of dust that gets generated with the bark that the pets and their people will inadvertently have to breathe. And there's always a challenge of trying to clean up. You know, I know the owners or companions try to clean up after their pets, but it's really hard in the wood chips. And so I think the canine turf is a more hygienic and approach, and obviously for accessibility also. And that's the way to go. And as far as AD standards, compliance, I like staff's recommendation, the 2% slope. I think it makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Carlos. Vice Chair Mason.
Yes, hi. So great job so far. I'm really excited about this. I had a question about the East Stair, which was answered. Same thing. I also like the staff recommendation. Obviously, we can't please everyone, but we do need to make sure that the people who need certain things the most get it. Accessibility is super important. And so I am all about the staff recommendation for the slope. On the turf, I'm a very proud dog owner. They're here, you can't see them because of the screen. But I don't go to Hart Park specifically because of the wood chips. It's unhygienic. It's gross in my opinion. Sorry, I don't have a better way to put it. I can't get them clean. I won't put them in my car, and I live right by there. So I would love to start taking my dogs to Hart Park, and that turf is a deal breaker for me and my family. So I'm all about the turf. And as far as the heat issue that is possibly an issue at West Hollywood Park sometimes, I've gone aware of that. I toured Hart Park before this to refamiliarize myself with it. And at the height of the day, it's still mostly shaded naturally as is. So I'm sure with the other shading improvements, which we'll see later, that won't be an issue. And it's something that you guys have already figured out. So I appreciate it.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Commissioner Solomon.
Hi there. Yeah, Christina, thanks so much for this presentation. I guess I wanted to back up and ask like a couple of conceptual questions to staff. When I first got on this commission, I set out to try and walk every park and look into them. And like if you go to the weho.org site for Hart Park, you can see it's linked there on the page still, the PDF presentation that Christina and her group gave to the Disabilities Advisory Board on September 23rd, 2020. So I walked the park twice, once on my own and once with Jake, looking at the different proposals. I know that Christina, like you all gave an hour-long presentation to the Disabilities Board at that time. I feel like, I mean, for me, I'm able-bodied, I have cats. This is not like a park that unfortunately my cats won't get outside on a leash. I mean, I would like to rely upon past presentations that have been given to our other advisory boards, especially those that are way more directly affected than I am. Like I'm just having to look at the Disabilities Advisory Board's minutes from September 23rd, 2020 to get a brief overview of what they said then. I feel like it would have been more helpful to have more input from how that presentation went and what the feedback was from that advisory board. I mean, in the minutes, it says that the Disabilities Advisory Board prefers turf over wood chips. It doesn't have any specific commentary about these accessibility ramps, and I feel like that would be, very important to this discussion that we're having tonight. So I guess maybe if you could kind of back up and talk about, what feedback you got from that presentation half a year ago.
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up. I can just hit on some points that we received from DAB. The majority of them were all in favor, obviously, of bringing the park in its entirety up to ADA and Chapter 11 of the Building Code compliance. One of the biggest complaints was that the existing ramp from DeLongpre was too steep, very tiresome trying to, if you don't have an electric wheelchair, trying to wheel up that ramp is very hard and tiring for them. We did at that meeting, we had a different approach at that meeting where we did present some concepts, some concept plans. We're not doing that for this meeting because we really want to look at the various options and get your input on the options before we put in. We didn't want something that looked contrived or that we had already thought about what the design was going to look like. We don't have your opinions yet, and we want to hear them. So the good thing about what we're going to be presenting to you this evening is that we can take these different portions and options and enhancements and requirements and put them all into the best recommended preferred concept design that's there. However, what one of the concepts that we did present was access from Sunset into the park. And the overwhelming majority of the feedback we received from that group was, if you are going to provide access to Sunset, which would be wonderful, yes, let's go with an elevator. So we'll hit on that a little bit more in the next round.
Okay.
Right now, we're focused for this recommendation to focus on the main entrance, which is DeLongpre, because of course we've got at least a 40-foot drop from Sunset into the park.
So this slide that's up on the screen right now with these 3 different options, was this presented to the Disabilities Advisory Board? Because I would much rather rely upon their input than mine on this.
I'm trying to. We presented.
I saw the alternative A, alternative B, alternative C.
Right. I'm trying to recall if it was these 3 exactly. I know it was for certain the top 2. I'm not sure if Rick is on the line. He may remember if the third option, our recommendation, was presented to DAB. I mean, their overwhelming response was anything you can do to provide accessible walkways as opposed to ramps, they're all for. It's not just for people in wheelchair, it's for all types of people, able-bodied and disabled, to enjoy the park.
Christina, if I could just jump in for a sec, this is Helen. And just Commissioner Solomon, please know that when we presented to DAB, we presented to them to get their input. And in turn, we took their input and we started to refine some of the aspects of this presentation, so that we're bringing you input, things that we received as input from them. So as Christina said, I don't recall this particular slide, and it may have been in there. I mean, it's been a while, but I don't recall this particular slide, but I think we took some components from all of the presentations and from the ad hoc meetings, and we've compiled everything, and now we're ready to move it forward. And before we move it forward to council with all of these different components, we're bringing it to you. So it's kind of because we had community meetings as well. So and members of the ad hoc committee participated in those. So this is kind of a culmination. So what you're seeing here is one, of course, staff recommendations, but from those staff recommendations, they were based on input from groups along the way. So this is a refinement of what was presented to them.
Yes, thank you, Helen, for that. And I did want to just to that point, just say that one of the other comments was they needed the walkways as well as the parking to be less steep. So I think that's what we were trying to achieve after getting that feedback with the 2% slope walkways.
Okay, and then one more question to kind of back up again conceptually. I'm brand new to the commission, so forgive me, but I know that we do have a Hart Park ad hoc committee. Can somebody give some background about when that was formed, how often they've met, and what the last presentation they've seen is?
I can pull those dates up. I have them. Hold on one second. But I can just kind of give you an overview. I mean, I've been
Yeah,
with the
that's
commission
all.
forever. So the Hart Park Ad Hoc Committee was actually formed before the council gave this direction. And it was for Hart Park because at the time we were going through the process of renewing the lease, and the ad hoc committee, as I recall, was formed, to provide input on Hart Park and to continue to work on Hart Park. And then this came along, and then in turn we included them. We went back to the commission and said, we'd like to include them in this portion of it, because an ad hoc committee is just that. It's for one item. It's not for multiple different types of items. So we did include the ad hoc as part of this process. The ad hoc met initially with Christina and myself and other staff to start the outreach process. Christina provided an overview of what the outreach process would be. The ad hoc committee gave their input. We refined it. In turn, that was the outreach process. Once we started the outreach process, the ad hoc committee members were present at those meetings, or most of them were, if they could all make it at the time. It was Commissioner Block, Commissioner Torres, and Commissioner Isaacs. And they went through the entire process with us, and we did meet in between periodically to kind of do catch-ups and kind of see where we were at with things. But they were part of the process all along, and the entire commission actually was part of the pop-up process. So we included the entire commission to come along and assist with the pop-ups, and they did it in shifts. So this commission has been actively involved in this process from the very, very beginning. And now we're at the culmination. So while you're a newer commissioner, you may not have all that history, and I'm sorry for that.
Yeah.
And maybe in the future, what we'll do is we'll have a little meeting with you ahead of time to get you up to speed, you and maybe some of the other newer commissioners. Now that I'm thinking about it and you're bringing it up, sometimes we take for granted that everybody knows what we're doing. But yes, the commission has been actively involved in this process all along. Commissioner Carlos, the chair, Commissioner Isaacs, Commissioner Block, Commissioner Torres have actively been involved in this process the entire time. I think how many outreach meetings? We had 2 outreach meetings, Christina, and then we had several. Then we did DAB, and we did
a lot of pop-ups. I mean, I think I spent almost a week at West Hollywood Park. We did the pop-ups at Hart Park and went out to Hart Park, Plummer Park, Farmers Market, and couldn't have done it without all the support of our wonderful PFC ad hoc committee, who were schlepping tables and everything to help us get set up. So thank you.
So just so I'm clear, though, this presentation tonight is new information even to the ad hoc committee members.
I think it's information that they were aware of because they were part of the process, and this is a culmination of that. So it's not the exact same picture, but it's maybe the same concept. And I don't want to speak for the ad hoc committee members. I would hope that maybe they would want to provide input as well.
Well, just real quick to finish up my comments, and sorry to derail it so much on the specific proposals in front of us. Yeah, I do agree with staff and like the third one the best. And then, yeah, I think that turf would look much better than wood chip and look cleaner and easier maintenance. And those were the top 2 agenda items on the outreach that you did. The top 2 items of importance to people that use it is cleanliness and maintenance, and then DAB recommended turf over wood chip. So that's enough for me to go there.
Is that the end of your comment?
That's it. Yeah, sorry.
Thank you. Commissioner Torres.
Thank you, Chair. I think everybody has asked and the great questions that we've had. I concur with Vice Chair that I'd much rather have turf than wood chip. And I want to thank Christina and everyone else on staff that has worked really hard on this. It's really great to see where we are at, to where we started, even when we were trying to get the renewal for the Hart Park. So I'm really excited to see this. So, and no more comments after that. We just can keep moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Torres. I have one quick question because I want to make sure that we have ample opportunity to hear from the public. With the recommended ramp concept, is there any chance that that could become a skateboard ramp?
Mhm.
Christina?
Well, I think that like with many ramps that we do run into that possibility. I mean, that is a good point. It would be inviting, yes. But right now, I don't know if we have an issue with the existing ramp. I mean, that we have an existing ramp on DeLong Prairie. I don't know. I mean, it's very similar, a little bit steeper than this top one.
We don't have an existing problem at that location. I mean, that being said, you know, you build it and they'll come.
Yeah.
You know, I've been in this business for a long time, and then, you know, unfortunately, unfortunately that, you know, there's not a lot you can do on a ramp for the skateboards. You can do it on the walls and the
Right.
retaining walls and things like that. We can put stuff up,
Yeah.
deter it, and you know, and then
It-
if it becomes an issue, we can also bring in park security. But we haven't had at this location, we haven't had a lot of issues with that.
Okay.
And currently, the existing ramp right now is about 160 feet long. So if we were to go with this sloping walkway, it wouldn't be. It would be a little less long going in one direction because we've added about 35 feet. If you notice at the very bottom here,
Mhm.
so it's shorter. It's a shorter distance now going this direction because we've taken some of it and put it going in this direction. So there would be a stop, I guess.
Yeah, I think it'd be more exciting right now at the grade that it's at right now than it would be.
Right.
And we haven't had a problem at this location.
Good, good. I mean, you're flattening out the slope, so
Yeah.
it eliminates that. But I just wanted to ask if that was something.
Thank you.
Thought about. And I'll reserve my comments on the materials for the, I think everybody's really provided the points that I wanted to make related to dust, maintenance. Wood chips are pretty unhygienic, and they're not great for dogs. And as Commissioner Carlos said, it's very difficult to see what you're picking up, and oftentimes it's missed. So I am not an advocate for wood chips at all. So with that, I believe we're going to move into the second component of our presentation. We'll then move to questions from commissioners, and I hope we can do that in a fairly abbreviated way so that we can hear from members of the public immediately after that, and then move into discussion. So with that, I'll turn it to you, Rick.
Thank you, Chair. Well, as some of the conversation has touched on thus far, the site at Hart Park does pose significant challenges because of the steepness of the slope and some of the limitations perhaps on ways we might go. However, in my experience as a design professional and one who prides myself on sort of aspirational and creative solutions, I think sometimes out of the greatest challenges comes the best creativity. And so what we wanted to share with you tonight were some of the output we received in going to the community. One other community entity I want to point out is the Sunset Bid, who we also, to which we did a presentation and got a number of really excellent points of feedback from that group as well, beyond the pop-ups and disability advisory group. So what we're going to be showing you is sort of a compilation and translation of aspirations, perhaps coming from the community, some things that staff came up with we wanted to share with you. I would point out that these are aspirational. There is no budget at this moment, but what we're hoping to do is solicit your feedback and input of whether some of these might be worth recommending to council to take a little bit further and look at what it might take from a cost and implementation standpoint. So think of it almost as a vision plan or a little mini master plan that could develop out of some of these aspirations. So let's see. I think I have control of this now. Is that right, Debbie?
Yes, you have control now, Rick.
Okay, let me see if I can. All right. Can we get full screen is the question.
Let's see. I don't know why it's doing that to you. 1 second.
It's my technological karma. These things always. Christine knows it's legendary. Christina might have talked about this.
1 second. Let me troubleshoot this really quick.
Okay, so as Debbie's doing that, what we're going to take you through are a number of components. And Christina and I jokingly during the process referred to this as the potato head approach, channeling our childhood of mixing and matching pieces. So what we're going to show you tonight are really meant to be that type of mix and match approach. You may like one thing in one context, with some other things in another context. And I think as part of the feedback we're soliciting is really your sense of how a vision could come together to enhance the park and make it more exciting for more types of users to use the park itself.
Should I just share my screen? And I think I know the presentation enough. I can maybe help Rick through.
Yeah, Christina, if you can do that, that's great.
Yeah, you know, I don't know why that
Sure.
second screen keeps coming up.
Okay.
Thanks,
Sure.
Christina.
There we go. Okay, so let's go to the first slide, Christina. So we looked at a number of design enhancements, some potential enhancements for the park itself. And some of it was based on feedback from the various groups. So starting with lighting, you know, we think that augmenting it with different types of lighting, perhaps overhead lighting, might make great sense. Re-looking at the parking itself, you know, why does parking only have to be used for vehicles? Is there a way that perhaps for certain events and programs that the city might have, both for neighborhood programs and Sunset Boulevard programs, that the parking lot itself could be transformed and then turned back to the parking when it's done? We also thought that it was important to explore accessing from Sunset, as was brought up earlier. That was a consideration at the Disability Advisory Board, and we looked at a couple of ideas for that we'll share in a minute. And also, because DeLongpre is the primary accessibility entrance, and because Sunset is such a steep drop, we thought maybe there's ways that one can enjoy the park from a different elevation, from within the trees, almost like a treehouse experience that would be a flat overlook off of the Sunset sidewalk that would be a respite within the trees and provide accessibility and participation in the park, but from an elevated plane. We also heard from the DAB, I'm sorry, Christina. We also heard from the DAB about, the Sunset Bid, that they would like us to explore upgrading the screen and the fencing, that there's a long stretch here between the Standard Hotel and Sunset Towers that they thought was not very engaging. And so we would be looking at some other screening or ornamental types of features to perhaps integrate with these overlooks and provide a little bit different pedestrian experience. So next one. There was some other enhancements that we looked at. Certainly, Rebecca had presented the neon dog sign. We love that. We're happy to hear the commission's support for that item, and we'd absolutely love to integrate it. Its final placement, as was mentioned by some of the commissioners, we will be working on final placement in anticipations of some other potential improvements. One of which is a potential rideshare drop zone. There is a drop area there at the moment. It's just to the west, integrated with the Sunset Towers, but it might be a nice thing to look at a formal rideshare drop zone, particularly in support of the actor studio as well, if they're going to be doing some smaller performances, being able to arrive without having to drive and park just because parking is so limited. We think that this would be a useful enhancement as well. Within the park, we thought that there was some opportunities for shading. We'll get into that in a minute. Some perhaps decorative fencing. And then sort of a big grand idea would be potentially looking at that parking lot really transforming and being able to be used for more outdoor evening type of performance type uses. So these are some of the things that came up. And then lastly, I think we have one more concept series of images. You know, we think that signage is a real underdeveloped aspect of the park right now. Both, there might be opportunities both for the integration of art, but also the telling of a more direct story about William S. Hart, you know, the history of the individual who deeded the property to the county originally. We feel there's some storytelling perhaps that could come out of some upgrades in the future. We also thought the picnic area, while nice because it does have some tables and trellises, it's very underdeveloped as a space, and there might be opportunities to make a little bit more expanded plaza and gathering space, again, for use of the actor studio, or perhaps even dog-related events. You know, maybe that there might be, who knows, some, you know, dog costume events and, you know, educational programs for dog guardians. I think there's some potential. So we thought it might be worth looking at some expanded seating if that might fit. And then a big component you heard earlier with Rebecca's presentation and the challenge with the art on the median and the trees, that we really don't have experimental landscape art spaces in the city. And so there is a sort of little retreat area that's a seating area, but we thought there might be a way to rethink that as a ongoing changing out art garden type of space in which different artists could experiment with installations and really activate the park, provide other reasons to go to the park, and make it a more fuller facility for the community. So these were the big ideas that sort of came out of the process. And now we'd like to share with you, sort of zooming in, how some of these might be integrated. So if we start on the left with the vertical access, we looked at two ideas. One that would be an elevator, a formal public elevator, and another that would be an accessibility lift. And the difference is really size and scale and cost. Certainly, there's a significant difference in cost. A public elevator needs to be sized for a gurney, for rescue. It holds multiple passengers at any one time, whereas a lift is designed solely for really a wheelchair and perhaps a caregiver to go along with that person. But it's a smaller accessibility lift only. It is really not for general everyday public access the way an elevator would be. At this point, we're not really recommending this as a solution. I think it's something that staff could explore long-term if the council was interested in investing this. It is very expensive. And as we've seen, even at the West Hollywood Park, you know, public elevators take a great deal of attention and maintenance throughout the day. And in this space, it could be challenging. There may be another alternative as well that we're exploring to the east. The Standard Hotel property is in flux right now, but one of the things that is being contemplated is a new arts and advertising piece. And that does require some sort of public benefit. And we've been in preliminary discussions with that group to potentially provide some access on the eastern part of Hart Park. So I think for now, that's one of the reasons why we're not recommending this solution at the moment. But the overlooks, we do feel provide a really interesting experience of the park from Sunset. These would be almost like a small or mini pier or wharf jutting out into the ocean. They would be secured at night. There would be sliding panels so that they wouldn't become a respite in the evening. But during the day, they could be a really nice place to pack a lunch and sort of be in the trees. So that was one of the things we were interested in your input specifically. Next. Moving back to the parking lot, we were saying that that really poses some interesting potential if we think about the space as something that has multiple uses, as a flexible space, and still can remain parking when it needs to be, but when not, also have some use. And so whether it be through some graphic components, some interesting patterns and textures, or the overhead lighting we mentioned earlier, that would really allow the space to transform and potentially offer some different types of programming for the community. And given what we've learned over the last year, that outdoor spaces are really at a premium, and especially as public gathering spaces, our parks are our primary spaces, and we'd love to be able to use perhaps the parking lot in a more efficient and productive way. Next. And so as part of that, perhaps we look at reconfiguring the stairs coming down from Sunset. It is a rather steep incline, and because of that, it makes it very, very amenable to a stadium type seating configuration where we could still accommodate access from Sunset, but also start to think about a little performance venue. And I think the little vignette on the left is not exactly what it would be, but I think the image on the right next to it gives a sort of grander vision of if the commission was interested in us exploring that, we would certainly be willing to develop it and see what would actually work with the incline. But as a component to that, on the opposite side of the parking, we would also think it would be ripe for a potential projection screen for outdoor movies. The nice thing is that the adjacencies are the hotels. The residential apartments are quite a bit away from that, and any sound would be transmitted to the north towards Sunset. So if we were ever to explore a public space, this would be an area that perhaps would make sense. Obviously we would need an acoustician to look at sound baffling and other things, but on a more intimate scale, it is something that conceivably could work. And if the commission again thinks this is something worth exploring, we're happy to do so. Next. So again, as part of some of these aspirational visions, taking the existing picnic area, which is more intimate, I guess you would say, and expanding it alongside of the dog area, perhaps reconfiguring the tree, the walls around the tree wells, and creating more of a plaza space that could be used for post-actor studio events and even dog festivals and art shows, what have you. I think there's a lot of programming that suggests itself to a space like this. We also want to look a little bit closer at the fountain. There's an existing fountain and seating with the AIDS Memorial. There is some documentation on when they were first put in and whether or not they can be reconfigured, but certainly from a disability standpoint, we would like to rethink the seating area where the memorial is and provide some opportunities both for more level access and some additional seating for those who might be wheelchair bound, and making sure it's fully accessible. And in doing so, what that does is it creates a little bit new type of orientation. It rotates and shifts the orientation potentially so that it focuses a little bit more back on the historic Hart House, which I think we're really excited about, because I think one of the challenges of trying to integrate so many aspects. I'm sorry, I have a fire engine going. One of the challenges is that the sort of postcard shot of the Hart House has been lost a little bit, and we feel like with the reorientation of that memorial area that we can sort of recapture that snapshot angle, and we'll be sharing that in a minute as well. Next. And I mentioned the opportunity for an art space. I think this was inspired by something that I saw up in Sonoma County called Cornerstone Gardens. And there they created these small little plots of land and invited international landscape artists and environmental artists to do little demonstration gardens. And it's an amazing experience to go there. At any one time, there's 15 to 20 little demonstration gardens that they swap out all the time. And it sort of led to the inspiration for this kind of a space that could be a similar thing, that perhaps, 3 times a year, 2 times a year, it gets a complete transformation. Working with Rebecca and her team, I know they're excited to be able to expand their art grants and their art program to environmental artists and landscape artists to have a space. And we kind of like the seclusion of this because it is up above within the trees, and it's away from the dog area. And so if we were interested in this kind of an idea, it seems like this is the best place for it. Next. And then shading was brought up earlier. We had a similar analysis to, I think a couple of the commissioners mentioned that really the trees are doing a huge help right now. The lushness of the trees and the canopy do a great job with shading for much of the year. But there are other ways to shade the space. I think we, Christina and I really push the more of the wind sail, kind of organic type of opportunities. There could be multiple points of contact set up so that seasonally they can take a little bit different shape, but the canvas sails, are sort of organic and a little whimsical, but certainly there's products, off the shelf products like sunbrellas and other things that if there are some hot spots, they can certainly be explored as well. But the good news is that we're in very good shape at Hart Park. It's very different than West Hollywood Park in terms of the turf exposure and heating up. Next. Part of the feedback, as was mentioned earlier, is certainly a majority from those who regularly currently attend Hart Park is there was a preference for the wood chips. But as Commissioner Block mentioned, there was also comments on opportunities for small and large dogs, perhaps to have more separated spaces. So taking that, we looked at a number of alternatives, and some of which would keep the fountain area, some of which would eliminate it, but then have the plaza to the north. And then the bottom image is what we called our high-low concept. And this one would be taking advantage of the natural topography of the current dog area. For those of you who have actually been in that area, it slopes to the southeast, and it's a rather steep slope. And so what we'd like to do is lower it a little bit, and that would create a new accessible entrance off that pathway that we discussed earlier in the south corner. Thank you, Christina. Around that entrance, and then a separate entrance on the upper level at the level of the Hart House. And by doing this split level, it actually does open up some more opportunities, whether it be surfacing or small and large dog opportunities. We can go to the next slide. And so we did explore how the wood chips and turf might be integrated if that was a direction that ultimately council wanted to go. As we said, our recommendation on the surfacing was the synthetic turf, but we did hear the public. We did hear some of what they would really like to do. Although we would say that one of the commissioners mentioned that the wood chips currently are one of the reasons not to use it. And I think there are a number of dog guardians who've told us the same thing, that if it were synthetic turf, they would use Hart Park. So the outreach was clear, but we have to sort of put it in a context as well. So these are just some configurations that they're all approximately the same size in terms of square footage, but obviously the high-low concept is a longer linear one. So it actually has greater length because we're going out in front of the south portion of Hart Park. So I think we have one more, Christina, which deals with sort of access from De Longpre. Next slide. Whoops, there. Here we go. Thank you. So I mentioned at the beginning that the storytelling component was another thing that we were excited about, potential improvements to the park itself. And so with that, we looked at the circulation and how the stairs might be reshaped or relocated to help that storytelling be more enhanced. So right now there's a stair that goes straight up into the parking lot. You walk through the parking lot and go up to Sunset. And so the circulation behind the cars is not optimum. So the upper left slide, excuse me, we looked at relocating the stairs to the eastern side of the driveway. It would give us a more direct path into the park itself. It would be designed in conjunction with whatever new sloping path that you just recommended. But what that would do is it would free up a wall space at the back side of the parking that we see as a prime location for potential art wall or a poetry space. You know, West Hollywood is one of the few communities out there that actually has a city poet. And there's not a lot of opportunity for the poet to express himself or herself in concrete, so to speak. And so, you know, this might be a wonderful space for a poetry wall or for, you know, promoting city events. Could be something that is a mural that tells the story of William S. Hart. You know, a lot of opportunities there, but we wanted to at least create the canvas, so to speak. The middle, or the upper right, I should say, image shows a jogging stair that would have some signage down below, maybe a little bit of the storytelling we mentioned earlier. You would go up to an intermediate landing that would itself present a new opportunity for an art or history wall. And then you reset and you go up into Hart Park, at least on the side of the parking area rather than the middle. And this one also is looking at another stair off the sloping path, a more direct walkway. And we'd be interested in your thoughts if you think that would be useful to have a more direct stair up to the Hart House level. Of course, that would not work with the high-low dog park concept, but in some of the other ones it would. So again, these are all aspirational. There's some things that we think would enhance the park. We'd love to get your comments and feedback. I guess we'll start with some questions, and then I think as Chair Polishek said, we'll then invite public comment, and then we'll come back to hear your feedback. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rick. That was a tremendous presentation. Lots of interesting things to comment on. So with that, because there's so many elements to this, if commissioners could kind of focus on the main things that they want to ask a few questions on, anything that they want to have discussion on, we'll wait till later. But if you have specific questions, we'll get into those now and then move into public comment. So we'll start with Commissioner Torres this time.
Thank you so much, Chair. And wow, Rick, this is amazing. I'm so happy and excited to see all the ideas. I love the seating area you were talking about, like an auditorium-like seating, as well as getting to know what Heart was all about and why we're giving this. So that's pretty much all I'm going to say, other than, I mean, I'm pretty sure that we'll be going through a lot of, do we need to actually like say what we like and we don't like now, Chair, or
now,
any questions?
Questions now, and then we'll get into after.
I have no questions. I have no questions. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Solomon.
Thanks so much for the presentation. I'll keep it light, just on some of the notes that I took. I love the idea of overhead lighting. You know, I think safety was mentioned on the feedback form from our community outreach. The parking lot expansion and, you know, the space to use it for other types of events just makes the whole park more accessible, more usable by the whole community. On the rideshare drop off, just, you know, I think if anyone is going to the Actors Studio, they're going to put in 8351 or 8341 DeLong Pre into their Uber. I just see them getting dropped off at the main entrance. I understand the point, but you know, I think that we're covered there on the Sunset side just from having the hotel drop off. And I think that anyone going to the park to use it for our purposes is probably in their rideshare gonna come up the DeLong Pre entrance. I love the sunset viewing platforms. I feel like a big problem with this park is that when you're walking along Sunset, you don't really know the park exists. There's a tiny set of stairs that goes down with our new neon dog sign. That'll help, but nothing's better than having piers and platforms that look out over the park and just bring more attention to it. You know, especially if those are included in the lighting proposal. And it also makes the park more accessible in that you can be a part of the park and be inside the park and still have never left the Sunset sidewalk, essentially. I strongly feel like the AIDS Memorial and the fountain should be combined into one location, like you all showed in your presentation just now. I mean, you know, they take up two different spaces. Neither one is maintained very well. And I feel like, you know, putting the fountain inside of the AIDS Memorial just brings more attention to the AIDS Memorial and frees up square footage for otherwise, you know, use in the park for more dog park area. That is, yeah, those are all of my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, this is for questions more than comments. We're going to get to the opportunity for each commissioner to provide their input and comments, but if you have specific questions on the presentation. Commissioner Solomon? Nope.
No questions.
Okay, thank you. Vice Chair Mason, questions?
No questions for now. Comments for later.
Thank you. Commissioner Carlos?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Rick, for a great presentation. I don't know if this is a question or a comment, but I'm going to say it anyway. I guess with all the activity and how activated the park is going to be, with all the programming and the movies, and I have a great concern for the neighbors and the residents and what their experience is going to be at night, and the negative impact it might have on them. So that's my question, comment. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Isaacs?
Thank you. The presentation was wonderful. I love your ideas and the fact that the park can be expanded to the community at large, rather than just dog people. I don't have any questions.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Block?
One question, what is the grade of the handicap correct grade that needs to be done in developments when you're doing the steep of for wheelchairs? Is it a 2% or does the 5% grade also accommodate the handicap access? Does anybody know that answer?
Yes,
Rick?
Commissioner. Yeah, 1 in 12, which is 8%, is a ramp slope. That is the maximum slope for ramp. Walk path.
8%.
8%.
Yes.
1 in 12. Yes, 1 foot for every 12 feet.
And so the 5% and the 2% grades both accommodate the handicap wheelchair per code and to allow handicap access.
Yes, anything less than 8% will certainly be acceptable. The difference is that if it's 2%, it's a pathway. It's not even a ramp because 2% is so shallow. And there's other grades depending on how steep it is, whether you need handrails or other assistance, but the maximum slope would be 1 in 12, 8%.
So that's for the wheelchair. Is there a different grade that accommodates, say, old elderly person walking with a cane, that 5% doesn't work and 2% works? Because it seems to me that this came back after the DAB meeting to make it more accessible. That's how it came back to the 2% in this meeting. That's sort of right.
Well, that's certainly a consideration. 2% being a sloping walkway. I mean, our sidewalks are at 2%. So, somebody with a walker or a cane, it's very easily navigated. Up to the 8%, it can be navigated, but it's more effort, and so that's why we opted to move in the direction for greater access for all to the 2%.
Just a quick comment, and on that is that I really would like to compliment Commissioner Solomon's questions and research on the Disability Advisory Board concerning this issue, because I used to chair that commission, and that's the most important thing, to allow all people access. And that's our job here too, is to keep that paramount in our discussions, not what we think, but what is really important to people who live with disabilities and access for all. So that's my paramount concern in this too.
Thank you, Commissioner Block. Well said, and thank you for all your work, Commissioner Solomon, and bringing those to our attention. I have a quick question before we get to public comment, which is, do you anticipate having seating in the overlooks, or would they just be open space?
That's something we'd like to hear from the commission. I don't think we've taken it that far. We thought perhaps it might be a nice space to have lunch or something. So it could be more like almost like eating counters, or it could have furniture or benches and planters. But we'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Okay, we'll get to those when we have our comment portion. Okay, thank you all. Let's move to public comment. I'm guessing that I see a lot of names here, so I'm assuming that some of these folks are going to be speaking, and I'll turn it over to Debbie to help us get through this portion of the meeting.
Yes, so again, I did not receive any public comments via email, but we do have a lot of members of the public on here. So if you guys could use the raise hand feature, and what we'll do is we'll just start calling the names out. And once your name is called, you can turn on your camera if you'd like, or just unmute yourself, and you'll have 3 minutes to make your comment.
Excuse me.
Yes.
I'm sorry. If I may just gently suggest this, I'm Mark Campbell. I'm artist in residence at the Actors. I live at Hart Park and also work for the city of West Hollywood, and that I'm a caretaker. I don't have a lot of time, and I don't know how to maneuver that hand signal.
Okay, Mark, we'll call on you first. Give me 1 second. Let me just finish making the announcement,
I
okay?
appreciate that consideration. Thank you.
Okay, I do see one caller that is not joining us with video. So caller, if you are interested in making a comment, if you can unmute yourself now by pressing *6 and let us know that you are interested in making a comment. Okay, so it looks like they are not going to be making a comment. So Chair, if you would like to allow Mr. Kimball to make public comment first. Otherwise, we have one more person that's interested in making a public comment, which is Andrew Campbell.
Yeah, let's, Mr. Campbell, if you can hold off for the 3 minutes, we'll start with Mr. Campbell and then move to Andrew Campbell. So go ahead, Mr. Campbell.
Oh, thank you so much. So I am artist in residence at the Actors Studio. I'm a writer director, and I've been living at Hart House for 15 or 16 years. So if I could just tell you my perspective on the two issues that you brought up, which was, of course, the access and also the covering in the park, what to choose to cover for a covering in the park. It's, by the way, just quickly, that was a great presentation about the aspirations. It's really well thought out and creative. And fantastic stuff, so I applaud that. But I have to tell you from my heart, if you do not lose this mulch, everything you do here will be covered in dust. We just painted this house. It was fully painted and done 3 days ago, and there's dust. It's not so much that there's dogs in the park that cause the dust. It's they throw the balls, the dog runs the length of the park and stops short and creates this plume, this cloud that comes onto the house. I know there's uric acid in it. There's hantavirus and dog poop. It's so unhealthy to be around, and it's very dirty. The picnic tables cannot be used, really. They're covered with dust. The house, it gets covered with dust all the time. It really would need to be, if you kept it that way, really power wash 3 or 4 times a week to get it clean all the time. So there is that problem with it. I think the turf solution is so preferable, and I think people friendly, not just dog friendly, very people friendly. So that's my take on that. The other thing is that the big dog, small dog thing is a real problem because I live here and I hear dog fights all the time. And it's sad because you'll hear people just screaming in pain because their dog is being, hurt. And it's because of that nature of big dog and small dog that I hope gets solved as well. There's been some really hard things to hear out the window here. Thank you for your patience with this. Yeah, so the thing about the, and the other suggestion I have is to support the suggestion that, here's the thing about having events here. I love the aspirational aspect of it, but I've lived here long enough to know on Sunset Boulevard, most nights, aside from the pandemic, of course, it's slowed down. It is an event. And they come down off the Sunset Boulevard into the park, into the area. And it becomes more of Sunset Boulevard and the park at that time. So having events here, it can be very difficult, I think. And also, just an off subject, but it's a very, very, very applicable because it affects the environment deeply. We have a lot of people come through who don't have homes, who need to wash up in this bathroom, who need to sit at those benches and have what they need to have here. So there's a very big transient population that comes in and out of here as well all the time. And I'm not against it. I welcome them from the most part, and I haven't had much trouble over the years. I think I've only had to call the West Holly police maybe 3 or 4 times in 15 years. You can talk to them for the most part. So I really support the idea of the turf that's created for dogs. I think it'll enhance everything here. I mean, the dust really is everywhere. It comes through the windows of the house, and it really also undermines paint.
Thank you, Mr. Kimball. Your 3 minutes are up.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. We'll move on to Andrew Campbell. You can unmute yourself.
Hello, everybody. Thank you. This was a fantastic presentation, and I love the aspirational quality of it. Very excited about the possibilities there. It's a great little park. It's a real gem, and I'm glad that the city is really taking a deep dive look into this. One of the ideas that I got very excited about tonight was the idea of creating that sort of event or performance space. One of the things that we have, I formerly worked with the city, and so one of the things that we had always been looking at are, places to have, outdoor theater or outdoor music performances. And we generally would use Kings Road Park and of course Plummer Park, but we never really had a good place or a presence on the Sunset Strip. And this could really be an ideal situation for it. I think one of the exciting things too, even though, to take obviously the neighbors into consideration, we don't really have an outdoor space that we can use in the evenings. And so you could have like a free theater in the evenings, or a light concert in the evenings, if you had the appropriate infrastructure to support it. So those are my thoughts right now. I also really love the idea of new fencing along the Sunset Strip. I think that would really enhance people's ability to understand that there is a cool space below. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Helen Sanders.
Hi, yes. This is Helen Sanders. I actually work in the Hart, at the Actors Studio in the Hart House with Mark Campbell. Just two quick little things, and it was a wonderful presentation. For the outdoor events, my concern is there's no parking. If you had an outdoor event, where would these people park? And also the concern for the residents. And one of the renderings for the dog park, that where the dog part is long and in front of the house, a portion is in front of the house, that I am not excited about that, because my office faces that and the dogs would be right outside my office if that was the case. I think those are my only two comments. I just wanted to bring those up. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sanders. So I see other folks. Anybody else wish to speak on this? Any members of the public who would like to speak on this? Just let us know. You can unmute yourself if you can't figure out where the hand is. I'd love to hear from you. Yes, we have a caller there. Can you identify yourself, please?
Can you hear us, caller ending in 4136?
Okay, I think they hung up.
Doesn't look like they want it.
Okay, well, I don't see anybody else. I don't want to short shrift any public comment here, but seeing none, then what I'd like to do to focus our discussion now is to, if we can go back to the two items that we are actually taking action on tonight and start with that, and then move into comments that we'll have notes on based on the more aspirational components of the presentation that Rick made. So, I don't know if commissioners feel that they want to see the shared screen again, so you can look at the configuration of the dog park, as well as the ramping. That's fine, we can do that. But let's start with trying to move through those two items and have vote on those individually, and then move into discussion on the other amenities. Yes, Vice Chair Mason.
With that being said, I would just like to motion that we approve staff recommendation for the slope.
The recommendation that staff has made with the 2% slope, that ramp?
The 2% slope.
Yes, okay.
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Solomon second. So is there any further discussion on that item? Okay, seeing none, then we'll take a roll call vote on that, please, Debbie.
Okay, Commissioner Block?
Aye.
Okay, Commissioner Isaacs?
Yes.
Commissioner Carlos,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
okay, Commissioner Torres,
Yes.
and Vice Chair Mason,
Yes.
and Chair Polachek.
Yes. So that passes unanimously. Thank you all. Then moving on to the accessible material, the surface material for the dog park. So here we have a recommendation for dog-friendly artificial turf. That was the direction that council actually gave. But understanding that members of the community who use that dog park have asked for wood chip, how would the commission like to proceed on this? And yes, Commissioner Block.
I think we were talking about if there's a big dog and little dog park, the idea in the diagrams was that perhaps the big dog park would have the turf and the small dog park might have the mulch. And so it's hard to proceed on a recommendation without having to know if there will be a big and small dog park, which may invite a different solution. So I don't know if we make a recommendation based on a single park or based on a big and small dog park. So I'd ask for guidance.
Chair, perhaps I can jump in. I think
That would be helpful.
the aspirational images of potential configurations will be a future effort if the council directed us to do so. So I think what's before you right now is the existing park as it is, and going forward with council's direction to replace the chips with the turf as is right now. And then certainly we'd love your feedback on, in the future, perhaps creating a large and small. That would be fine. But I think what's before you is what is there right now.
Okay.
So is what before us is an upgrade to the current park without the redo of the park? Or are we only
That's
dealing?
correct. Yes, the current configuration, just swap the material for synthetic.
Just the surface.
Only synthetic surface, yes.
All right.
Can I make a motion for that?
Yes, yes, Commissioner.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to consider switching the mulch into synthetic turf.
Is there a second?
Second.
Isaac, second. Reach out again, Vice Chair Mason. All right, any other discussion on this? Then we'll take a roll call vote, please.
Okay, Commissioner Block, Commissioner Block,
No, I can't go against the public input.
okay, Commissioner Isaacs,
Yes.
Commissioner Carlos,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon,
Yes.
Commissioner Torres,
Yes.
Vice Chair Mason,
Yes.
and Chair Polachek.
Yes. So that passes 6-1. Now we can move into a more robust discussion of the amenities that we've had the presentation on. And this is our opportunity to give feedback to Rick and Christina on which elements commissioners like, don't like, would like explored, have further work done on. And then Rick, you will take this back and then proceed with whatever design changes you'll make and bring that forward to council. Is that correct?
That's correct. Well, we would bring back an initial improvement plan for the immediate future, and then we would bring back your feedback and input of the process as a more visionary plan long-term and see if council would like us to pursue it.
Commissioner Torres, question?
If I may request for the display or the screen,
Sure.
the screenshots, brain fart, sorry, to be displayed so we can actually remember what we've actually gone through. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Okay, is this the first slide, Christina, for that portion of the, yes, okay. All right, well, let's go commissioner by commissioner, starting with Commissioner Block this time.
I like the overhead lighting a lot. I like the meeting area, and most of these ideas are good. It's a question of how they get incorporated. That's pretty good.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Isaacs?
Thank you, Chair. I like all of the ideas. I think they all have merit. I think we had talked in the past about the dangers of the elevator maintenance and, you know, how vandalism might, you know, cause that thing to break down quite often. But anyway, I think the lighting and the viewing station or viewing panels and the what are these things? The now the
Overhangs?
overhead canvas things look really cool to me.
Oh,
I
the
think
shade sails.
Yeah, the shade sails look really lovely if they're doable. I just think all the ideas are wonderful. So I don't have any negative comments.
Thank you, Commissioner Isaacs. Commissioner Carlos?
Thank you, Chair. I do like all the design enhancements. And I agree with Commissioner Block and, you know, how they all get integrated and finally utilized within the site. That's the question. And I had the other question is, you know, we really do need to consider all the neighbors once we get into heavy, whatever the programming is at night for the residents who live next to the park. Number one, I love the observational decks for twofold. It'll really extend. Basically, it extends the park up onto Sunset. It's going to activate Sunset at that portion. Then you're kind of creating little parklets with those decks. I just think it's brilliant. I think they could have seating. I don't see why people during the day wouldn't find that a respite to sit down as they're walking Sunset, tourists or whoever it might be. Now that I'm seeing the picture, I do like the idea of a lift for wheelchairs. Not the elevator. It seems problematic, but a lift seems like a brilliant idea. I like the landscape garden, the art garden. I think that's a great idea. And having dual purposes with the parking lot for events is a great idea. And the A's Memorial Fountain, moving that so it has a seating around it. And for what Rick was saying, maybe a view back into the Hart Park building. Let me see what else. I like it. It's still having supplemental shade over the dog park, even though you do get a lot of shade from the existing trees. And as far as you were discussing the new stairs from DeLongpre, and I would kind of keep that simple. I think it was the one that you had on the left, that one, if you did anything, I think the jog staircase, I think you're just creating more, you have so many levels going on in the park. Why create all these different levels and ramps? So I would keep it as linear and simple and clean as possible, because there's already so much going on there. There's a lot. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Carlos. Vice Chair Mason.
Right. This has been a fantastic presentation, and I have several thoughts regarding accessibility and the lift versus the elevator. I always think, of course, we should defer to the Disabilities Advisory Board. I think I know like this is something down the road. I just think it makes more sense to do the lift versus an elevator as well. But again, the DAB would, I'd defer to DAB on that one. Absolutely love the idea of signage. I think we had to search for a while to even know what Hart Park was all about. I think to predominantly put up some more educational signage is amazing. So creating spaces for that is fantastic. I love the overlook idea on Sunset. I'd probably walk by there for years before I realized that Sunset connected to Hart Park, like an embarrassing long time. So I love that will bring the park up to Sunset and Sunset up to the park, and the parklets is a great way to put it. I am highly in favor always for creative uses of space. I know it can get tricky, especially talking about possible programming. If anyone's still listening, programming is not something on us. It's not something we will ever have a say in, unfortunately, on this commission. However, we can create the canvas for creative programming that hopefully the parks people from 10 years from now will find a new idea for it. But as long as we kind of give them that canvas, essentially, I love that. Someone will always come by who will be more creative than the last and do something new. So I think that it's our job to kind of ensure that this space can be used for multiple things that we can't even think of now for the future. And as far as events, if people are maybe a little worried about events, Kings Road Park does a lot of events. It's bigger than that, and we live right there, and there's never really like a traffic problem or anything like that. Again, not our purview, sorry. The fountain, we need to definitely redo that. Fountain is a rough term for what's currently there. It's more like a broken pipe, to be honest. And we need to fix that, especially if it is a memorial or tribute currently. It needs to be treated as such. And the art space, I like because I can't think of any other use for that space. Honestly, it's an awkward spot. So, and I'm sure the design people and the architects here have gone through several options. So I trust you that that's the best use of that space. I like the stairs when they flow kind of straight up, just like I think Commissioner Carlos had just mentioned. I think I'm on that option as well, where the kind of flow goes right through to Sunset. And I'm not a big fan of the jogging stairs. I don't in this design. And then the last thing is an unpopular opinion. I don't think we need 2 dog parks. I think it cuts the space down significantly. I have little dogs. I'd rather mix them in and give them more space and utilize that than kind of have, I mean, I might be misreading the scale here, but it looks kind of like we'd be just cutting down on the space that we're using. And we have small dog parks at other parks, so we are accommodating that if they would like to go down the street. So I think that's it. This has been super fun, and the presentation has been amazing, and can't wait to see all the changes. So.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Commissioner Solomon?
Hi, thanks. I mistakenly gave many of my comments before, so I'll try and be brief. As far as access goes, I get that a lift would be cheaper than an elevator, but the recommendation from DAB was, I mean, they specifically discussed this and preferred an elevator over a lift. And we're here tonight to discuss Hart Park, mostly because of accessibility. So like Jake said, I'm going to defer to DAB with the elevator over the lift. The current, I think in the park as it stands now, the area is labeled the conversation access area. And we propose in this turning it into a landscape art garden. It's definitely an improvement. I mean, the area is pointless and doesn't make any sense at all right now in the park. If you go there, like if you observe that park for an hour, no one's going to go to that space. It's like a bridge to nowhere. I mean, you take a steep ramp up to it, and you get up there, and there's nothing to do. Certainly, doing an art garden is an improvement, but I also wonder if it's better just to scrap the area altogether and have it just be, the beautiful trees and shade coverage all throughout. I don't know that anyone's going to actually take that steep ramp up, even if we do grade it down. If there's art up there. It's something to consider. It definitely needs to be changed. It might need to go away altogether. I agree that I'm not a fan of the jogging squares either. And I would just say, before, I think that you had mentioned some history plaques to talk about William Hart as an idea. And I would just say, like, before we go about erecting any plaques to talk about this person. You know, we need to take a look at who the person was, what their legacy was, what their contributions were. I am no expert on William S. Hart or 1920s silent film, but you know, just a quick Google Wikipedia search shows that in 1916 he directed a film and starred in it called The Aryan, which according to Wikipedia, scholars have labeled this as perhaps the first film to openly proclaim the doctrine of white supremacy over Native American Indians. You know, I think the movie was a hit in 1916, but you know, maybe it's not the type of plaque we need to go honoring someone with now. And he didn't do us any favors by donating this park to the city of Los Angeles rather than the county of Los Angeles. And we don't even own the land because of the mistake he made whenever he donated the park to the city, or donated his estate to the city rather than the county. So let's just take a look at William Hart before we go about creating a statue of him. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Solomon. Commissioner Torres.
Thank you so much. Would you mind going back to the first slide, please, really quickly? And I'll just go one by one and let you know really quickly what I'm thinking works and what I think. So overhead lighting's amazing. The observational overlook, it's really important. The creative event space would be great, although I want to take into account the public comment of the tenant that lives there. The next slide real quick, please. Drop some great creative signage. I really love the step seating as well as a pedestrian stairway, because I think it will be great for the actors studio to use that space perhaps to do public events, etc. in the future. Next slide real quick, please. The observational, just real quick regarding the observational overlook. Go to the, oh, is this the next one? Okay. Landscape art garden, this one, okay. The observational overlook I really love, only because it will give the opportunity to the people that go through Sunset Boulevard to look at the space and know that the park is there. We will still have the stairs, I assume, correct, from Sunset?
Yes. Yes, we would.
Okay, great. ADA compliance from the Disabilities Advisory Board. We'll wait to see what they say about the lift and or elevator. Like you had mentioned, it's going to be pretty expensive for us to do that, but we will go with the recommendation that they will do. The next slide, please. You can keep going.
Sorry.
I don't have any other. No, that's okay. Hi, Christina.
It's going so slow and
That's okay.
catching up.
Sorry about that. I think I don't want to miss anything, and I did make notes,
Sure.
but I want to make sure that I'm not missing
Okay, so we
anything.
did that one.
Yes,
Now
yeah.
this one.
Overhead lighting's the same, so graphic, that's great. You can keep going, thank you. Will be amazing to do some sort of outdoor space if it's possible, just like the one on the left-hand side, the activities and entertainment seating area with the shade would be great for people to use it for lunching and or special events. You can keep going, Christina, thank you. No comments on this one. Regarding the landscape art and conversation retreat space, it would be lovely for the overlooking of a Sunset Boulevard to be implemented by that, as well as I understand that, you know, many people don't know or will not go there, but sometimes I believe in if you build it, they will come. So it would be something that will be amazing to have. You can keep going, Christina. Sunshade would be great. And I will agree with Vice Chair that there's really no need for little dog park, big dog park. I think the bigger the better in terms of making the space, although a lot of people would say that small dog owners may feel unsafe to have big dogs in the area, but it will make it easier and I think more accessible for more dogs to be there, I guess. You can go, you could keep moving forward, Christina. Thank you. I'm really liking the jogged stairs, but not the right-hand side area, only because the space where you walk up on the first stairs, you have space to use it for, that space, that wall would be great to see the art if it's something that we can do. And I agree with Commissioner Solomon, and that, yes, you're right. We do have to consider the history of Mr. Hart. Not something that we could rename, but we're not going to talk about that right now. Move forward, please. I think that's it, right? Yeah, I think that's it. I think it's a great presentation. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to give feedback. And I love the vision and where we are at with this. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner Torres. The really good thing about going last is that I get the benefit of everybody's great thinking, and we certainly heard that tonight. I do want to acknowledge Commissioner Solomon's work in doing his research from the DAB, because that does help inform us as to how to proceed vis-a-vis accessibility. So I'm not going to repeat everything that's been said, just a couple of things. Related to the elevator and the lift. The idea here is accessibility, and sometimes while the optimal conveyance might be an elevator, it may not be feasible. Elevators are extremely difficult to maintain. You can get people living in there, it breaks down, there's nobody there to fix it. I mean, it's problematic. So a lift may be the better way to go, but acknowledging that we're making it accessible. So sometimes you don't let the perfect get in the way of the good. The overlooks, I think, are a tremendous way to activate the connection to Sunset. And I do think seating would be good. Rick mentioned that there could be a way to close them at night, something to think about, although we have to be cognizant of the times that we live in, and we have a population that is unhoused, and people are looking for places to bed down at night. So it's something to think about. The idea of combining the AIDS fountain and the memorial makes good sense. Having walked over there on Monday, the AIDS memorial, it looks so neglected. We need to do something that really acknowledges that's appropriate for a memorial. And then finally, as far as the dog parks themselves, I agree that a larger space is better. Again, I am not a proponent of wood chips, so I would argue for having the entire park with the dog-friendly artificial turf. So with that, hopefully, Rick and Christina, you've been taking notes. Those are our thoughts about how we would move back. Obviously, budget is a huge component of this. And hopefully the city will do well and we'll be swimming in revenue. And at some point when we're ready to, we'll have the resources to go out and build all this. But at this point, as Rick said, this is aspirational, but I'm really glad we had the opportunity to weigh in, and thank you so much for all of the work that's been put into this, not only by staff, but also by our own ad hoc committee. There were a lot of meetings and good work has come out of this. So thanks to everybody's contributions.
Yeah, Chair, thank you so much. I think the feedback has been wonderful. I think we were very cognizant of not wanting to bring before you completed ideas and just ask you to sort of bless them. I think we're really interested in building consensus and a vision collaboratively, and so we really appreciate that this approach worked for you as well as a commission, and thank you for all your comments.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Helen, would you like me to show the latest and greatest colors of the Hart House? For anyone who hasn't seen it, newly painted.
Looks great. Really does. It's a light, is it a light blue?
Helen, I think your microphone's off. Sorry, it's actually a gray.
What's gray?
But we did make some changes to the house initially. What was currently painted was not really correct to the original painting, so we did make some modifications with the help of our historic resources group, who we work with on all of our historic buildings. So this is more to the original painting color, but it looks great. And we've made some other modifications as part of this process. We've pulled a lot of the plant material away from the house. We've also dug a lot of, there's areas around the house where the dirt was starting to build up. So we've made some modifications there too. So it's not just this. And this is kind of the first phase of more work that we'll be doing on the house itself. We do have a historic resources group did a assessment of the house a while back, and we're starting to implement some of those processes to bring the house up to, or basically to maintain the house better. So,
Thank you.
Thank you,
It looks
Christina.
great.
Sure.
Showing us. Okay, I know this is a very long meeting for us, but this was a big item, and I appreciate everybody's contributions on this. It was well worth the time, I think. So now we will move into item 8C, which is an update to standing committees, ad hoc committees, working group, and standing liaison appointments. Helen, do you have any staff report on this?
I'm going to actually turn it over to Erin. This is her
okay.
item. So I will turn it over to Erin, and we can go ahead and just jump right in so we can get you guys out of here. So there we go.
Thank you, Helen. So I, as part of the agenda packet, we have the roster of the standing committees, the ad hoc committees, as well as working groups, and then the liaison appointments. So I'm going to share my screen now, and we're going to go over the different openings, but also check in with those members of the commission that already have selected their placement to see if they would like to switch or, change their selection at this time. So let me share my screen. All right. So included in the information was also short descriptions of what all of the different groups, who it's comprised of and what their purview is. So I'm hoping perhaps we just want to go one by one and review these. Does that sound okay with you, Chair?
Yes. Yeah, let's move through them.
All right. So the first thing to note is that 4 of these standing committees, actually all of them, do have a requirement that one of the positions that's seated is the chair. So that is notated here with the asterisk. And then currently in the Greening West Hollywood Committee, we have it's filled. So this would be a check-in to see if, if today is the last meeting of Chair Block, I just heard about this, so sorry about that, Chair Block. But we will miss you, and actually now we have one opening. So maybe the first check-in is with Commissioner Torres to see if you are interested in keeping this appointment, and then who would be interested in this appointment.
I'd be happy to give it up if someone else wants to step up.
So we'll just speak up at this point. If we have more than one, then we can, talk about that. But are any 2 people interested in the Greening West Hollywood?
Commissioner Carlos has his hand up.
I would.
All right. And then anybody else? Or otherwise we have Commissioner Torres.
No, I'll stay.
You want to stay?
If no one else wants it, I will stay.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I can't see everybody's hands, so I'm not sure if anybody else puts up. Oh, hold on. I guess I can if I go down. Okay, now I can see it. Okay, great. Thanks, Sarah. Let's continue.
Yeah, thank you. So we do currently have one opening in the Heritage Tree Standing Committee. And then Richard, just to check in with you, if you wanted to keep that going forward.
Yes, that's fine. I'll stay.
Okay, thank you. And Commissioner Carlos, sorry, that was informal. Anybody else would like to volunteer for the Heritage Tree Standing Committee?
I would.
All right, we gotcha. Commissioner Isaacs. All right, the next two standing committees are specifically for the chair, so we won't have to visit those. We have the Hart Park Ad Hoc Committee. Currently, actually, we will have one opening there with
just real quick on the ad hoc committee. I believe after this, the ad hoc committee no longer has a task, so that committee will be dissolving.
Okay, well, good to know. Here, we'll just delete it out of here then. Thank you. So moving forward, so we will have two openings in the Kings Road Park Playground, and then a check-in with Commissioner Torres.
I would like to remain.
Thank you. And then any two interested in the Kings Road Park Playground Ad Hoc Committee?
20, 30 feet from it, so I'd
Yeah.
have to do it.
Can you say your names?
Solomon and Mason.
All right.
We're both 20 feet away from it on each side, so.
Okay, got it. Okay, so Mason and Solomon, thank you. All right, pet memorial. So we have a check-in with Commissioner Isaacs as well as Commissioner Carlos, and then one opening.
I'll remain.
I'll remain.
All right, thank you. Anybody interested in the pet memorial ad hoc committee?
We can move forward with two. That's fine if no one else is interested. This
Back to it
particular.
at the end.
Is that
Sorry,
Solomon?
go ahead. Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Helen.
I was just gonna say, I mean, we've finished some of the work and we still have two community meetings to do, and then this particular ad hoc will be finished. So there is some work left to do, but not as much as there was in the beginning. So.
You know, me, Andrew, I'll join if no one else wants to do it.
All right, you got it. Next, we have the standing committees ad hoc committee. And we have two openings there and then a check-in with.
And we have
What is that one?
It's where we were reviewing all the standing ad hoc committees. Actually, this one, at this time, I think we don't have a lot left to do on this one. So not a lot left. And I think we may have concluded, I have to go back and double check, but I think we've concluded almost all of the work. We just have some minor tidying up to do.
Gotcha.
That's what I thought. I thought we pretty much covered.
Yeah, I think we've completed this one. So this one we don't need members. Thank you. You're right. We did complete all of that.
Right. So next we have the Design District Streetscape Master Plan working group. And we have, we'll actually need a primary and an alternate on this one.
What, Helen, was that the one that I gave the primary to Larry because I was going, is that correct?
Right. This is the one that
Yeah.
I met yesterday with the staff liaisons, and you know, Commissioner Torres actually had been attending the meetings previously because she was the primary and then was not able to continue, but she does have the history. So I don't know if that's something you want to come back on.
I can take it back and have an alternate because we actually just had supposed to have had a meeting last week or 2 weeks ago and it got canceled. So I can go to the next meeting and then the alternate can take over or however, but you know.
Yeah, it's been an ongoing process. So if you could remain, that would be great. And then an alternate.
Would anybody like to be the alternate on this working group?
Quick question. Yeah, I think I would do that. Jake Mason, sorry.
You got it. No worries.
Oh, I just saw the next one though, but yeah, I can be an alternate for this.
Okay, so the next one, the Parks and Rec Rules and Guidelines Working Group. Do I have a person
Jake
interested?
Mason.
Jake said is interested.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Now we have, actually, these are already filled. So the Romaine Street greening, that was just at the last meeting. So correct me if there's any changes, but I think this one's set with Commissioner Torres and Commissioner Solomon. And then that leads us to the standing liaison appointments. This was initiated almost 2 years ago by Commissioner Block. And this is just a way for the commission to get out in the community, go attend other boards and commissions meetings, report back to the Public Facilities Commission if any of their discussion items are something the commission would like to take a formal action on. And then that liaison would go back and present whatever the commission's thoughts are, discussion to that board or board or commission. So right now we have just a few appointments on the books. We have Commissioner Isaacs with the Disability Advisory Board, Commissioner Carlos with Arts and Cultural Affairs Commission, and Commissioner Torres with Rent Stabilization Commission. We'll start here. Are there any updates to just the current appointments?
Actually, I think I'm on the transportation.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I think I read the wrong one. Yes, you were right. Yeah, that's transportation. Thank you.
Erin, I thought I'd just throw something in here. When we went through creating these liaisons, we only really wanted to do the commissions where we intersected, where public facilities intersected with public safety, for whether what's going on in the park, or when public facilities intersects with the disability board, or where public facility, so it wasn't for every board or necessary from every board. I believe staff was the one who wanted to, talk about which were Helen, we had that conversation about which were the most important ones. And I think we set it up based on your recommendations.
Correct. I mean, I think we looked at ones that we would have, as Commissioner Block mentioned, that we would have some type of cross reference with, for example, the Business License Commission. It would not necessarily pertain to the purview of our commission, anything that would come under them, but HPC may, and Human Services would. Planning Commission, sometimes yes. Public Safety Commission, yes. Rent Stabilization, probably not. Transportation, yes. Disability Advisory Board, yes. LGAB does at times. Russian Advisory Board, they do have some things that intersect. And then Senior Advisory Board, definitely. Transgender Advisory Board, Women's Advisory Board, and I'm sure Social Justice Task Force may not, because it's more of a policy and we're more in the facility maintenance arena. So, but again, if there was a time when there was something that intersected, if we did not appoint a liaison at this point, we could come back and revisit it and appoint a liaison if needed. So don't feel that we have to fill all of these particular assignments.
Yeah, I have a comment on this one. I understand the premise behind it, and it makes sense, but it also is it's laborious, and it's an effort to read agendas and figure out what meetings to attend, and then come back and figure out how to report back to the commission. And it's all well intended. I understand the intent behind it, and I support that. But just from my perspective, I think we want to pick and choose carefully, because it's just an added work bill to people who are already serving on all of these other committees. And I just don't know how much bandwidth everybody has to do this.
May I make a suggestion that I will be replaced probably at the next meeting with a new appointee from Councilmember D'Amico. And because most of the committees are taken, perhaps table the choosing of these liaisons until the new commission is fully constituted.
Vice Chair Mason.
Yeah, I actually like the idea if we are able to of just kind of tabling this conversation, because I'm along the lines with Chair Polachek that it's a lot of it's a lot to take on, especially when we want to start getting a lot more done in these ad hoc committees as well. But then also, again, if we are going to continue to do it like this, I would love to bring in whoever is coming in and give them kind of a say there as well. So at least table it to where we can kind of maybe even rethink as a group how we do it without maybe cut the work out.
Commissioner Torres.
Piggybacking on what you said, Chair and Vice Chair, I think that perhaps we can assess that as well. And we would talk to specific commissions and or advisory boards depending on what type of ad hocs we're working on, such as Hart Park and the Disabilities Advisory Board, or Plummer Park and, I don't know, Safety Commission for the homelessness situation. So I third that, I would say. But I don't think we need to make a decision at the moment for this, and or perhaps reassess what we want to do with this, because it does take a while to go to those meetings, to go back and report if any report needs to be done.
Any concerns about tabling these liaisons for the moment? Okay, seeing none, I'm just checking here. Okay, then let's do that.
And I just want to clarify, because I'm going to send a copy of this out. Should I delete the current selections then? And then just have the commission decide and appoint into the future? Is that
we're
correct?
tabling the item, so we're not taking any action on it. We're not updating it. We're not deleting it.
And if I may, regarding like Transportation Commission, I could come to them and ask and see what they think about, for example, the Santa Monica and Westbourne art piece kind of thing. So that's something that's applicable to the moment and current events of what we're working on. But yes, I would agree with that. Like, don't add any more, but don't delete them either.
Yeah, if we're tabling it, we're not taking any action on it. So we would just leave it as is.
Okay, good.
I
Commissioner,
have a question. Excuse me. But so what we've done already with the standing committees, that's good, right?
yes,
That's good.
right.
So
We're talking about the liaisons.
Right, just the liaisons. Got it. Thank you.
I can take down my screen now if everyone's okay with the changes so far, and then tabling the standing liaison. Does that sound okay?
Yes.
All right, thank you, everyone.
I'm so sorry. Just quick question regarding the beautification project. Is that considered an ad hoc, or what is that?
considered greening.
Greening. Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, and both you and Commissioner Carlos are on the greening committee. So that just makes it a lot easier.
Okay, thank you.
All right, one question though. Do you mean the Romaine Street beautification? Because that is on there separately.
Yes.
Yeah, that's on there separately, and it's just you and Commissioner Solomon.
No, I was talking about the one across.
No, it's something different.
City Park.
It's okay. All right. I'm sorry.
Okay, I think that concludes item 8C. So we'll move on to.
Madam Chair, we would need a motion to
I'm sorry.
accept all the current changes to and then table the second portion of it.
Okay, anyone willing to make that motion? If not, I will.
I will motion.
Second by Vice Chair Mason.
For a second, yeah.
Okay. Do you need a voice vote or do you need a roll call?
We would do since it's an action item, we would just do a quick roll call.
Okay, Debbie?
Okay, Commissioner Block,
Aye.
Commissioner Isaacs,
Yes.
Commissioner Carlos,
Yes.
Commissioner Solomon. Commissioner Solomon, you're muted. Can't, okay. Is that we can't hear you. Yes, okay.
Yes.
Okay. And Commissioner Torres,
Yes.
Vice Chair Mason,
Yes.
and Chair Politic.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, that passes unanimously. We'll move on. We don't have unfinished business. We don't have excluded consent calendar, so we'll move on to public comment. Anything, Debbie, anybody, any calls or anything that you've received in advance?
No new emails or any requests for comments came in.
Okay, thank you. Items from staff.
Okay, I'll be very brief since it's we're almost at 10 o'clock here. That's probably the longest meeting we had in a very long time. Next meeting, we will be looking at the part of the naming process would be the item before us is the naming of the West Hollywood Library after Ruth Bader Ginsburg. So that will be coming to us on the next meeting. Also, I believe we might be having an item from the design district regarding trash cans and benches. So those will be the two items for the next meeting. And then we will follow that up in July with an item on memorials and tributes plaques for an LGBTQ suicide memorial somewhere in the city. So those are some of the bigger items that are coming before us, along with regular items that we'll be having. So just to give you an overview. Debbie, Aaron, did you have anything?
No comments.
We also, whether it's June or July, we will be looking at potential prizes for the Green Seedling Award. That's for the Green City Awards program.
Correct. And then there's another item coming, and I'll have to go back and look at my notes. There's another item that'll be on our agenda as well coming up. So I can't recall what it was exactly, but there's another. It's not a big item though.
Thank you. Now we're on to items from commissioners and subcommittee reports. Before we go around the block, speaking of block, Commissioner Block, this is your last meeting. So as we've done recently, we've compiled a list of your accomplishments. And I don't know if we can share the screen on this. Do we have this as an item?
It made me cry.
You have a long list of accomplishments, Commissioner Block. And while I'm not going to read each and every one of them, I wanted the rest of your colleagues to be able to see what you've done in the time frame that you've been on this commission. And it's lengthy and there's some really good things that you've done in service to this commission. So you've been on since, well, your last appointment was May 31st, 2020. You've been involved with the Greening of West Hollywood Standing Committee. You made recommendations related to adopting parkway standards. You were appointed as a member of the Parkway Standards Ad Hoc Committee, moved forward the Sunset Streetscape pilot, and the rest you can see here. I do want to pause on the Green City Awards. As was said earlier, this really was your baby. And you brought that from the germ of an idea to an event that really the city can be extraordinarily proud of. And we're expanding it even beyond what was originally anticipated, or contemplated. So just a big thank you on behalf of your colleagues. I'm sure each will want to speak to your participation in this commission, and we wish you all the best in your endeavors, and hope that you won't be a stranger, and will, as things catch your interest, you'll come back and visit us. But thank you very much for everything you've done for us.
And Madam Chair, I see that it wasn't mentioned up here. Actually, Commissioner Block has been on the commission 3 years this month.
Yeah, I knew this was his most recent appointment, but
yeah, but he's been on since 2018.
Great, thank you, Helen. So we'll start with Commissioner Torres, and Commissioner Block will let you have the last word.
I'm pretty sure that everybody will say so many amazing things of what you've done, Larry, Commissioner Block. It's been an honor to work with you, getting to know you, and remember when you became chair and how amazing it was for you to get to know the ropes, like you asked me. But it's been great to get to know you and get to serve with you. So keep us informed on what you're up to. Please come back and support us in what we're doing, and best of luck in all your new endeavors.
Thank you, Commissioner Torres. Commissioner Solomon.
Thank you. Is this the final commissioner comments for the end of the meeting?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Want to echo what Noemi said, Larry. It's been a pleasure serving with you. We will keep up the good work on the programs that you created. I know you're not far away, and you'll always give us favorable coverage from here on out. So we look forward to that. A couple of comments I had at the end on the Green City Awards. I was wondering if we have this new under 21 award this year, and I was gonna just check in and see if we had any outreach towards the schools here in West Hollywood. I'll go through a couple of them real quick, and then staff can jump in. My second comment was, how do we form a new ad hoc committee? Like, does it have to be a direction from, again, I'm new, a direction from city council down to us to say, you know, you can work on this item? On bathrooms at parks, I know when some of us toured Plummer Park last month, the bathrooms weren't open at the park, and staff told us that they were telling everyone to go to the Smart and Final to use the bathroom. You know, we're at a new tier. I think we're 2 tiers down as far as COVID from where we were. Can we open the bathrooms back up in the park if they're not already open? And the final item, this conversation about Hart Park that we had tonight, in thinking more about, you know, legacy, and I'm not ready to be the jury on that at all. I mean, it's just been like quick research I've done tonight, but I know that the naming agreement for Hart Park is because William Hart gave this estate. It was not within the city of Los Angeles at that point. It was only in the county, yet he's still, some reports say he actually dialed the wrong number, and he gave his estate to the city of Los Angeles, even though the estate was not within the city limits. That's why the city of LA owns it, and we don't. If he'd given it to the county, like he should have, it would have become a part of West Hollywood in 1984. So in his agreement with the city of Los Angeles, the city of Los Angeles has to keep the name William Hart Park. He obviously has no agreement with the county or an agreement with West Hollywood that would have been assigned once we create. My question is, could we get an opinion from the city attorney, or ask council to get an opinion from the city attorney about whether or not we have to keep the name William Hart? It was not an agreement that he made with the county, so not an agreement he made subsequently with West Hollywood.
Okay, let me go ahead and I'll address those questions. So in regards to the outreach, yes, we have been outreaching to the schools. I don't know if Aaron has more information on that. I know most of the schools are just getting back into session, so that's made it that's probably making it easier for them to do that outreach. But we'll continue to check on the schools to see if they have any interest. This year may be kind of a tricky year because of the fact that schools are starting to go back, and they've been doing everything virtually. So this year we may not get the kind of participation that we'd like to see, but I think next year, once kids are fully back in school, that we'll be able to maybe get better participation, because I don't know, we haven't really heard anything from the schools in regards to our outreach. So in regards to ad hoc committees are formed for a one time for a particular topic. So depending on what is happening, usually they're formed. Usually staff will bring a suggestion for an ad hoc committee to the commission to deal with an item that needs more attention than the once monthly meetings that the commission is doing. And then it also assists us to
kind of expedite some of our processes. So that's how we form an ad hoc committee. Sometimes an ad hoc committee will be formed at a commission meeting if we start to have a conversation on a topic and we realize that it's going to be something that would just bog the commission down and it needs more attention, then they would form an ad hoc. That's kind of what happened with the Hart Park ad hoc. That's kind of how that one was formed. The bathrooms have been open for 3 to 4 weeks now, I believe. I think right after our last meeting. In regards to the name of Hart Park, I think that we could probably reach out to the city attorney, but it may be a conversation of we'd have to look at the lease agreement that we have with the city of Los Angeles. And I think if there was any indication that we wanted to change the name, it's probably going to be a conversation with the city of Los Angeles. I don't have good
I
feelings.
looked through the lease agreement tonight, the one that was signed in 2019, at a cursory review. It seems to be silent on us having to keep the name the same. So if we were to ask for an opinion from the city attorney, does that request come from staff or could it come
Yeah,
from
I
a
can ask
commissioner?
the city attorney. I mean, that's an easy enough one, but I can tell you what they're going to tell me is that we need to go back to city of Los Angeles and see if they're okay with it. But let me ask. I can ask that question. That's
Okay.
It's an easy email.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Solomon. Move on to Commissioner. Hold on, we're out of order here. Vice Chair Mason.
All right. What a meeting, you guys. It's one after one where I'm at, and I am just happy to be here because we got a lot done, and I think we're moving in a great direction. Other directions I'd like to see us moving into a more than annual tree planting. I agree with whoever said that earlier. I would love to see more of that. And some of the things that were answered. Oh, just so I don't have to send an email, Commissioner Carlos, I completely understand the tree sentiment and keeping them safe for the art stuff earlier. This just saves me from forgetting to send an email later and telling you that. I would like to see us, I might be moving too fast. I cannot wait to move on to Plumber Park as well. I believe that there was directive from council a little bit ago on that. Again, I wasn't here, so you don't have to spend tonight filling me in on it. We can talk later, but I would like to see us start moving on improvements to Plumber as well. I am also happy to hear the bathrooms are open because that was a concern of mine as well. And I'm out of it, so thank you very much, everybody.
Okay, just real quick, just to give you an understanding of in regards to programming events and adding items to staff's work plan. I mean, we do an annual tree planting based on former Arbor Day, now tree planting. It's based on, like I said, it used to be based on Arbor Day, and now we've gone to the more of a tree planting, kind of along the lines of what Commissioner Solomon was talking about earlier in regards to William S. Hart. Mr. Sterling, I was Morgan J. Sterling, I believe his name. If you go on to the Arbor Day Foundation website, they also indicate that they do not recognize his or do not condone his comments on slavery and racism. So therefore, they are no longer associating him to Arbor Day. So we as a city are no longer using the term Arbor Day. We're using tree planting. So, but in regards to adding, different events to the calendar, keep in mind that that's very labor intensive for staff, and it's not necessarily in our work plan. I mean, we're open to looking at different options and doing different things. But keep in mind that, we do have an established work plan that the council has approved, and to add extra items to our work plan. Not saying that we're not open to doing things here and there, but to establish numerous events or other ongoing events, it becomes problematic for us because we just don't have the time nor resources to do much more than what we're already doing. So I would hope that the commission, when asking for those events, would keep that in mind. I'm not saying that we're not open to adding things, but just keep in mind we have a pretty aggressive work plan that we have to implement throughout the year. So,
Well,
adding
I
additional events is difficult.
I really actually appreciate you saying that. It just brought a different perspective. So I will keep that in mind more, and sometimes there's just ideas I'll throw out there. So thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. So our next thing is then we just need to clone more staff.
Right. And like I said, we're open to doing, an extra event here and there, but I don't think we can add an extra annual reoccurring event to our calendar, is
No,
what I'm
not
saying.
until we get it. Yeah. I'm just, thank you
No,
so
but
much.
I appreciate the enthusiasm of the commission to wanting to do more in the community. But, we have to find out how we gauge that, how we can work that in. And it's not always going to be possible. So I don't want to lead us down the path to think that we're going to be able to jump on all these opportunities.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Commissioner Carlos?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Helen, for explaining that to me and us. I do want to say goodbye to Larry. Commissioner Block, I'm going to miss you. And you were very supportive, and you helped me when I first came on the commission. I had no idea what was going on. And I really appreciate that. Thank you. And as I said before, the commission will miss you. What else did I want to say? I guess the only other thing I want to say is that I'm excited about the direction we're going with Hart Park. I think it's pretty spectacular what we saw tonight. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Carlos. Commissioner Isaacs?
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Block, Larry, I am going to miss you as well. You were one of the more welcoming people. No, everybody welcomed me when I joined the commission, but you were particularly open-hearted, open-armed. And in addition to the great and creative ideas that you've presented over the years, you're one of the more compassionate people that I know, and I really appreciate that side of you. It's very moving and it means a lot to me. But I know you're going to go on to bigger and better things. And again, I'm going to pass by the store. You probably not going to be there because you're going to be too busy doing other things, but I'll go by the store once in a while and see if I can catch you. I wanted to also mention that having been at the tree planting, I thought it was an amazing event. I forgot to mention that at the beginning, and that a lot of work goes into those projects. It was a lot of work, and it went beautifully. It went smoothly. The kids had a great time and they learned a lot. And I'm very grateful to Helen and staff for having made that happen. I'm excited about the Hart Park ideas that came up this evening, and I'm very impressed with the commissioners' ideas and thoughts. Thank you, everybody, for being so cooperative and creative. And have a good night, everybody. And my dog's leg, she's sitting with her legs crossed. So
I bet she is.
she's sitting with her legs crossed. Anyway, thank you, everybody.
Commissioner Block?
Hi. I wrote a few words. It's not that long, but short. But I want to thank all of you for so much for your words. It's been a privilege to meet you and get to know all of you. We all share a special city, a nest that's all ours that we all love and cherish. But I want to thank Helen Collins. I know we will speak all the time and continue the partnership we built these past few years. And I hope that some of my pushing, I know it wasn't always easy, but you came through and we all grew, and it meant a lot to everybody. So those Green City Awards was such a far-flung idea, among other things. And thank you, Debbie, for everything all the time, for helping me when I couldn't even read the larger typeset and getting me big print. And Erin, we did it. And we couldn't have done it with all you set out to do in the face of COVID. meeting after meeting to bring together the program with your enthusiasm, your effort, your energy, and your smile that were present in every single meeting until we finished this project. Every week in COVID, we never gave up to make sure that things came through. And those memories are forever in my heart. But I also want to thank Brandon Milan, who was voted off when he was about to become chair, and Tyson, because both of them were enthusiastic partners to new ideas and helped keep the pressure on to expand this commission's purview to be more than just building and walls. And we have succeeded. And today, the Public Facility Commission is an inspiration to residents and businesses and developers and everybody who has a chance to be recognized for their green contributions. And I want to thank all of you, Commissioner Polachek, Commissioner Torres, Commissioner Isaacs, Commissioner Collis, Commissioner Mason, and Commissioner Solomon. Thank you all for the jobs that you do. I'm not going very far. I'll always be here. And thank you all for your service to the city. It's been an honor of my life to serve on this commission with all of you.
Thank you, Commissioner Block. So with that bittersweet note, unless there's anything else, Helen, that I've missed, we will adjourn this meeting at 10:14. And our next meeting will be on Wednesday, June 9th, 2021 at 6:30 via teleconference. Thank you all so much. A long night, but a very productive one. Take care.
You all.
Good night, everyone.
Night.
Good night.
Thank you. Thank you. I can't even turn this off.